be live. I certainly hope so. Keith, how are you, man?
Today's the best day of my life, Ben. How you doing?
Today is a fantastic day because we have some amazing guests here with us. We have Marc and Brandon from Beavis Wealth. That's the name of your channel, guys?
Now it is, yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. And so we were talking before we started this. I've actually known Brandon for a very long time. He's been a personal finance YouTuber for probably close to 10 years now at this point?
Pushing 10, yeah, about 8 or 9.
Cool. That's so cool. And we got connected when I first started my channel around 8 years ago because I saw Brandon's videos. I was big on personal finance at the time. I'm like, this guy's freaking awesome. So we collabed then, and then now here we are connecting again, man. So it's good to see you.
Good to see you, Ben. It's been a while, and yeah, I've been loosely following along with all your stuff. So congrats on everything you got going on. It's sweet to see you again, man.
Appreciate
it's been a while.
Absolutely. And then Marc obviously is your dad, right?
Correct.
Cool. Well, Marc, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Obviously, the hair, or what gives it away?
There's a last name thing for me.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Nice.
But yes, So and then Keith's big at personal finance as well. So this is gonna be a great conversation.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure. I've been able to check out just a little bit of what you guys are doing. It's interesting how, talking with Ben, I've learned a lot of how similar and how different some things can be between the US and Canada. And one of the things that I was looking at this morning was like the different types of retirement accounts and stuff that you guys look at and talk about in depth, which like it's just a random thing. But I noticed that when I speak about that kind of a thing with the 401k, it's like I expect that everyone just knows what I'm talking about and that it's applicable to everyone, and it's just not, But so it's always interesting to think about the subtle things that are different but the same.
It is. I mean, the structure of the accounts are pretty much the same, but the names are different, the labels, the kind of the rules around them. And when we do our content, it's mostly geared to the Canadian audience, but we do have a US contingent as well that tunes in. So we try and explain a little bit, but we certainly don't get into the depth of the US structures.
I think in general, like a lot of the investing principles, those do carry over, of course. A lot of the stuff you'd actually kind of do as an investor carry over, but you're right. It's just like the technicalities of the names. They do in many respects kind of match one-to-one. Like, my understanding of it, the TFSA is very similar to the Roth you guys have. 401k is more of the retirement account. So piecing those two together is, I think, a valuable connection to make. But in general, similarities, but slightly different. But yeah, it is a whole two separate worlds in many respects.
And so when it comes to like building wealth, I know that there are a lot of similar approaches, but a lot of people have not even touched investing. And I found that's even gotten worse over time. As access to information has gone up, so too has the overwhelm of just everything in the world. So people really don't know where to start. And I know the early days of your channel, Brandon, you were really talking about like 0 to 1.
Yeah.
So when people come to you with those questions today, like where do you guys point them?
Good question. I would say in general, like I do agree with what you say there. I think like with social media, as you know, Ben, like I almost think I have seen a lot of, let's call it the new generation, the upcoming generation, young kids. Like there's obviously the camp that just doesn't care. They're out doing their own thing and they're messing with AI and video games, whatever. But there is actually, I've seen like a subset of the younger generation who's actually like into investing. Like it seems like it's almost becoming a bit of a cool thing around the universities, let's call it. Again, it's not saying that for everybody, but I think that is like a huge positive shift that we are seeing. I'm seeing even like a ton of content. I don't know how closely you're following like the investing scene on Instagram or TikTok. It was like a lot of young kids sharing their stocks, talking about what they're doing. Crypto obviously is like, one of the areas that piques their interest quite a bit, and at least they're getting into the markets in general, right? But no, I mean, in general, I think the kids do lean towards like social media, wherever that may be. I think YouTube is maybe a little bit slow for some people nowadays, and they're getting their content from the shorter form pieces, maybe the Reddits, awesome, that type of thing. What do you think, Dad?
Well, I'll chime in and we talked about, we kind of think, the younger generation and haven't, don't know a ton about investing yet for a large part. Man, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, a lot of people don't know. In fact, I think if you went out on the street, just sort of randomly picked 100 people, we should do that one day, Brandon, a man on the street type of thing. A good one. But the reality is that most people are going to say, like, I have a general knowledge. Probably 10 out of the 100 would be like, knowledgeable and up to date. A bunch of people would probably know the difference between a bond and a stock, but really the level of knowledge out there when it comes to just, I would say investing, but money management in general
Financial
is
literacy, yeah.
financial literacy is shockingly low. And my background, I worked for over 25 years as an investment advisor, so I worked with people more my age when I started, and then right through up to and into retirement. And I had a recent discussion with someone about this. Around age 50 is when people typically start getting serious, because they can kind of see, a decade out, I'm going to be retired or whatever, and they've never really taken care of it. Or maybe it's a couple and one of them kind of takes the lead on that. The other's oblivious, just signs the forms here and there. And it's just, that's at least 2, maybe 3 decades of lost time. And as we all know, that time is probably the most important thing you have.
Well, I just had a combo yesterday, Dad, lunch with a lady, and she was saying she works with a bunch of ladies. She's saying a really common thing is, the people she works with is, let's assume someone goes through like a divorce later in life. And it was, let's say, for example, the partner managed all the money. It was like, the man in the household was the one dealing with all the finances. There's a huge subset of women, that, they come into life, and now they're in a position where it's like midlife, later life, they're forced to step up and take over in those scenarios. And that was a big subset of the people that this lady worked with.
That is divorce or, the death of a spouse.
Yeah.
I will say, we kind of think in that scenario, the audience doesn't cater to females as much as they do to males generally. I think males are more sort of proactive on it as far as being on YouTube or TikTok or whatever the case may be. But when I worked with couples, it was often the wife that took the lead on it. Depends on their aptitudes. So it was not exclusively men, that's for sure. But yeah, if we had a more rounded approach to it, that would be better for everybody.
Totally. And I think that people like you guys are trying to fill that gap. And one thing that you guys have built fairly recently that I've been watching very closely is Blossom. Can you guys walk through what that is, why you came to that, and then how you've been growing that business? Because it's super cool.
Thanks, man. You say fairly recently. It's like crazy how fast time flies. Because we've been live for like 4.5 years now. But yeah, as of yesterday or a couple of days ago, we just hit 700,000 members. So definitely a growing platform. And
that's phenomenal, dude.
Thanks, man. You've probably seen the inception of it. You've seen.
Yes, I've been following from day one. So to see that's super cool.
Yeah. So for those maybe not familiar, we started what it is ultimately is a social network that's built specifically for investors. So we often get coined like, the Instagram or Facebook or investors, where you can essentially, come onto the platform, app or web now, and essentially see what other people are actually investing in. So it's all based in transparency, where literally you can come see my portfolio. So I've got my brokerage account linked up. When I make trades or make any adjustments to my holdings, you can see transparently. You can go see what Marc's invested in, and all his hot stock picks that he's been making these days. But ultimately, the goal is it's a platform where someone can come on, particularly like a beginner, and if they're used to going to places like Reddit or X, which are maybe like more anonymous, or there's a little less credibility as to what people are actually speaking about or owning, it's a safe environment where you can come learn. And I've always wanted to, since I was young, wanted to be able to see what other people invest in, right? That's just one of the best ways you can learn, is just literally taking a peek under the hood. What is this person doing? What is this person doing? Do I resonate with this person? It's kind of in my phase of life. And like I said, we're growing well, busy, but goal is to kind of try and build the best platform possible when it comes to a place for people to come learn to invest.
I'll say a lot of our regular viewers on our YouTube channel will know the history, but like I say, I was an investment advisor, and Brandon actually at age 20 became licensed and was working alongside me. And I remember probably a year in, because he had to start waking up and showing up at the office at 7 o'clock in the morning and all the things that a 20-year-old doesn't like to do.
No.
And about a year in, he said to me, because he would sit in the meetings with clients, and typically I'd meet with 1 or 2 people at a time for, typically a couple of hours. And he said, Dad, I'm learning so much listening to you talk with these people, but you're talking to 1 or 2 people at a time, maybe 4 people during the course of a day. He said, we should go on social media and YouTube, and you can do this and talk to thousands of people. And I vividly remember, because I hadn't even thought of that. And I remember thinking to myself, come on, young buck, learn the business and do it kind of the right way. And so at one point, probably, what did you work there? 3 years, maybe 4 years?
About 4. I always say 4.
And then he kind of pulled the pin and he said, I really want to do this, Dad. And I remember your motivation, Brandon, was Brandon became very literate, financially. And he'd talk to his buddies and they'd be like, I don't know what an ETF is. I don't know what you're talking about. He just said, this is not right. So he proposed to me that I'm going to go start the YouTube channel, and sort of a little nuance. If we're going to do it in the way that we wanted to in Canada, the regulators won't. It's really, really difficult to do it because of the compliance. If you want to do something that's timely, there's probably a 2 or 3 week, compliance process you have to go through. So it wasn't going to work. So Brandon actually gave up his license and started the channel. And we had a 3-year sort of window, because for him to take a hiatus and to come back after 3 years, he'd have to go through the whole licensing program again. So he could, come back and reactivate his license. And then it was pretty clear after, I'm going to say, a few months, okay, this is the direction he's going. And I got to say, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to Brandon, but I was pretty nervous because he's going to go on, and this is my boy, and I don't want to embarrass the family. I remember his very first YouTube video he ever did. I watched it, and I was like, whoa, he actually knows what he's talking about, and the way you explained it. And so I thought this will be good for millennials. So from that point on, he kind of ran with it. Then when I kind of tried to retire in 2001, he said, Dad, you got nothing to do now. Do some videos with me. So
now you're the star of the show. Yeah. Now you're the
star of the show. 5 years ago. It's unbelievable how fast that time goes by.
That is so cool. Yeah. Because I had a similar story where when I started my YouTube stuff, my grandparents and my family was like, what is this kid doing? Like I remember my grandparents actually being like, why are you so obsessed with yourself? Like, who cares to hear you talk? and I'm like, Grandpa, like, I'm teaching people things. He's like, you're 23. What do you have to teach people? But
yeah,
exactly. And I was like, well, technically, I do know a lot, because I knew a lot about social media. I was running a social media agency, and so that's the stuff that I talked about. And like, I saw it so differently. A lot like what you guys are saying here is that people think it's like a selfish thing to talk on social media. I think it's like the most selfless thing that you can do, right? Like, you're giving away so much of your time. Like, every time that I come on the mic, same with you guys, for us to come on and speak on the mic for 10 minutes took tens, maybe sometimes hundreds of hours to be able to do that, right? And so it's like, it's one of those things where I think everyone now is waking up to that. And I'm even seeing in Canada where like the big banks are now trying to do social media right. And I'm like, wow, that must be amazing for you guys who have that much of a head start.
Well, that's the thing too, Ben. Like, I mean, we've obviously been in it for a while. I don't want to date it like we're like the OGs, but like we've been
around for a while.
Like, literally, we have in the big scheme of things, like what, 2016? That's when we started. 2016, 2017. It's like at that time, it wasn't as common to go get it on a camera. And like this is back in the day. Like nowadays, you can slap stuff together on your phone and CapCut. Like anyone can do it. It was work back then, and it was like kind of we were like kind of like the outliers to be going out and doing it. It was a bit more strange. So that's totally why it always resonated with you, like from way back when.
100%, because there was so few people doing it, and we all had a shared experience where we knew that we were getting some backlash socially, right? Whether it was from your parents or even your peers. Like I had a lot of people making fun of me that I thought were my friends. You know what I mean? But that's the cost of being early, though, right?
So, I do got to say, my parents never said anything about me not going on social media. So
that's awesome.
But I was going to say, it's kind of like, well, one of the things Brandon mentioned when I did sort of join the channel officially, is he just said, like, Dad, you're going to get a lot of comments on there. Some will be good, some will be bad, and you got to have a
crazy.
And I said, I think I got a pretty thick skin. You know what though? Of the thousands and thousands of comments, I think we got a really good group of followers, because it's few and far between. They used to bug Brandon a lot because, what do you know, 23-year-old guy with your hat on backwards, right, Ben?
I get a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And then we get some of the regular viewers just sticking up for Brandon, going, just forget about his hat. Like, what is he saying? And follow along there. So it's kind of fun with that ride. And and nothing's really upset me too much since I joined. Actually, I get more upset when people say things about Brandon than they do.
Totally. Yeah, you get more. You're on top of it more than I am. Yeah, you're always sending me stuff.
That's cool. Yeah, there's something super interesting about how, I mean, YouTube at this point is at scale. So when you're putting things of value out, right? Like the people that are going to gravitate towards that piece of it, like the actual message itself, are gonna set the tone essentially, right, for what happens next with this content. Does it spread or not based upon what you look like? Probably not. But if the message is good, it'll reach the right people over time. So I think that's also a very interesting thing about just the internet in general. Ben and I talk about that all the time. Like you can reach anyone in the world. There's so many people that, for instance, wouldn't have access to that information, right? So for them, they'd be willing to pay who knows how much money to get that information, and they're getting it for free because someone who's young and 23 is on YouTube and talking about these kinds of things. So I think that's another super powerful thing about just the whole content game and YouTube and the internet in general, making information free is it democratizes access to information, and the people who have the best messages are really going to be the ones that win at the end of the day.
Well, you know, Keith, and that is so true. What's so important about that, I think, is that like my generation would not have done what you guys are doing, right? So yeah, we can sort of ride on the coattails and get involved. And there are some older creators in our space as well now. But yeah, it's you guys that are driving it. And yeah, that's so valuable for the world.
Yeah, it's changed the whole landscape of everything quite a bit. And yeah, it's I see it every day where a big company is now trying to do social media. And it's so funny that I'm seeing these massive companies, like I won't throw too much shade, but like huge banks, and they're doing social media like so cringy. It's because they're coming to it so late, right? And so I've always found this fascinating too, because I study how people use these social media tools. And even though there's like so many data points for people to see how it's currently being used, people all go through like the same learning cycle. It's so fascinating. So a lot of these people who are in these big companies, they're like, oh, I should have been listening to these kids 10 years ago, but I'm not. So now I got to try to figure it out. And what they think is good content is just so out of touch right now.
Well, you know, it's funny on that note, when I started the channel and Brandon said, okay, we agreed I'd do it. And I remember saying to Brandon, like, I was pretty anxious to just sit here and talk to my camera. And I said to him, so like, what kind of character should I be? And at the time in YouTube, some of the bigger channels were characters, you know? And I said like, so how should I act? And he just said, Dad, just talk like you would to a client. And that took a lot of pressure off, because I guess that makes sense. But at the time I was thinking, well, you got to be, you know, outrageous or, you know, super smart or something like that. Right. And yeah, I guess if you send out the right information, like you say, get some traction.
Totally. Yeah. And you guys are living, breathing proof of basically everything we preach on this show, where as a lot of things get democratized, the things that are super high leverage are the stuff that's just hard to do. And audience is one of the biggest things that is there. It's like the most high leverage piece you can possibly get. And what we always preach is like, yes, it starts with an audience, but then you build a business off of it. Like, when did you guys feel like it was time to take that big swing? Because to go from a YouTube channel to building something like Blossom, like that's a massive shift in the business structure.
Yeah, we didn't do that right away. So I'm just trying to think back now, because again, I don't know the exact dates and timelines, but as you know, Ben, like way back when, like I think times are different in a modern day. You can like, we kind of took a slow burn, thinking back, which I think was a really, really valuable approach, because ultimately you built up that goodwill and rapport with your audience. Like nowadays with the TikTok and like short form, like people just get so many views, but you know, I think the intent and the quality of your following may not be as strong.
Oh, totally.
To put it simply, right? I mean, we've broken down the math. I mean, we obviously for Blossom, we do a lot of different marketing across all different channels, and like consistently, it's these old school YouTubers who have been in the game for a while that have the highest conversions. And when they say do this, people listen, right? Versus the attention that someone's going to get on, you know, a short form platform. And they may get tons and tons of views, but they may not be able to drive as much action from those eyeballs, right? So to answer your question, Ben, like, yeah, we spent the first, I think maybe 1, 2, 3 years, like just providing free content, just value
content,
as we wanted to, like, and it was like not necessarily overly strategic and hey, we need to do this Hermosi approach of value. It's just like, this is what we want to talk about. This is why we're here. This is our message. And then when it did come time to ultimately package that up into like a program, so we sold like a course. We ended up building an entire academy. So I had a course, Marc, you had a course. We had other teachers in the course. We had like over 100 hours of different lessons from, you know, different people in the finance space on all different fields. That came up probably about 2.5 years later. And one of the things that I think I would say made it very successful was the fact that we had provided all that value up front, right? It was at the point where when we had something to offer to the market, they wanted to buy whatever it was, right? And that's the 2-3 years of investment up front and building that up that I think converted super well.
That stuff matters, man. And
it does.
You don't think it does, but then it comes back to you. And like there's people now that we come across on this show, and we had a former guest who their mom, I guess, used to watch my educational content, and like she remembered the stuff that I had taught them, right? So that totally changes that dynamic. So when you're just trying to lead with value first, it totally changes the conversation. What I always said was, because I ran a social media agency, still do. So I used to say, YouTube changes it so that I no longer have sales calls. I only have onboarding calls.
Yeah,
Because
they're
by the
already
time
warm. They're
yeah,
warm. Yeah,
by the time they
That's
get to me, they've made their decision. I'm just telling them what it costs.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that totally changes the equation. So was Blossom an idea you guys always had, or like how did you come to that?
Good question. So the way I break it up is actually, and Dad, feel free to chime in, but we actually had, so prior to Blossom, we had our own like kind of internal YouTube business. So like we call the Academy. In fact, it's where I'm sitting here. We did that for about, geez, how long, Dad? 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, even to this day,
At least, yeah.
we still have students. That predates Blossom, because the story for Blossom, Ben, was actually two of my co-founders, well, three of them actually, they had built the product. So they had built the essential, MVP. They had a few beta users in. They came to us with the idea, essentially saying, hey, we think you'd be like a great fit to help grow this thing. Because at the time, I mean, they had a small amount of users kind of trying to get off the ground, and they basically trying to go to market. So at first, funny enough, me and my dad, we kind of like mulled over the idea. I mean, I don't know what your first impression was when I kind of told you about it, Dad, but what ultimately came around was the team. So my co-founders, like a really special group of people. And I think, Dad, you can agree, when we actually met Max, met him in person, we're like, these are the type of people we want to be around. So that's when we got like formally involved with the project, ended up becoming a co-founder, and essentially like running with that over the past 5 years. But the actual idea for Blossom actually came from Anika. So one of our co-founders, she wanted to start a platform for women that were underrepresented in finance.
Got it.
So she had worked in the banking sector, and I'm sure it's similar in the States, but here in Canada, I mean, just the women in investing, women in finance is, a smaller subset.
They're underrepresented
by the nature of it.
Yeah.
And she was thinking, like, why the heck is there not a platform out here where women can feel safe to connect and learn and grow? So funny enough, the name Blossom, like literally Blossom, if you look at our logo, it's a flower. It's got a more feminine touch. The name is inspired from the Powerpuff Girls. Ben, I know you love that show. I'm sure watching it growing up, Buttercup, Blossom. So that was a very popular show. I don't even know if you know that show, Dad. It's the Powerpuff.
I've certainly heard of the show, but I can't say I've ever seen it. Yeah.
It's a cartoon. So anyways, that's the whole backstory. We've been running with it ever since, but yeah, that's kind of history lesson there.
Super cool. Well, shout out to Anika. What's her name?
Anika. Yeah.
Well, way to go. That's freaking awesome. And so then take me through, because like the business that you guys have built, Keith and I actually have an idea for a similar business in a completely different space. Cool. And so I would love to know, selfishly, but also just out of pure interest, what is like the sales pitch to get someone to come in and do this stuff? Because it seems like an app like this, there is a bit of friction to get them there.
Yeah. There can. So, I mean, yeah, I'd love for you to tell me more about what you guys have in mind so I can like tailor the answer best. But the thing about Blossom is that we have so many different value props that someone may use it for, right? So we're a portfolio tracker, right? You link your brokerage. We're like this beautiful portfolio tracker. People like, we're known for our nice, like colorful pie chart. People come for that alone, right? And that's, I wouldn't say overly, not too much friction. I think where the friction may come from is this idea, like, especially Dad, you can speak on this, of coming onto a social platform where the energy is transparency, right? Like the default is, hey, you're going to share your investments with others. And to be clear, you never share dollar figures. We don't need to know whether Ben has 10 grand or $1 million.
Got it.
But what we can see is whether you're more invested in the S&P or you're more into the NASDAQ or you heavy on Tesla stock. So we can see percentages. And I think that's definitely a point of maybe where the friction and hesitation may come. Again, to different demographics, right? The older demographic, that's definitely something they got their guards up a little more than the younger. But no, I think honestly, Ben, like getting people to the platform, we work a lot with influencers. That's like a very natural, channel for us. And because the call to action is for them, hey, I want to be transparent. Like, think about this, Ben. Like, up until maybe like a few years ago, it wasn't very common for a finance influencer to actually share what they invested in. They gatekept it. They held it behind closed doors. And that, I think, is a big problem. Like, genuinely, right? You're out here telling people, like, this is ETF and this is what you should be doing. And then behind the scenes, you have no clue what they're doing. They could be doing something completely separate. So we're essentially a tool for these creators to put their money where their mouth is or show that they practice what they preach. So for them, it's actually an easy, like, it's not even a sell. Hey, you know, they want to be able to connect with their audience in this way by being transparent. So that's, I'd say we found a very nice product, you know, marketing fit, if you will, from that standpoint.
That's super
I'll
cool.
just chime in with a couple of thoughts, Brandon, if I can. First of all, I'll say, like, it is a beautiful app. Like, when I'm blown away by how user friendly it is. How, like, and I mean, I'm a baby boomer. Like, I'm more like into sort of like
Forums.
not fancy stuff, columns and spreadsheets and stuff. And holy moly, they've done the chief technology guy. They've done an amazing job of making it fun to be on and interesting and informative. And you can, like Brandon says, you can break down your portfolio, get insights, those types of things. The big, like you mentioned friction, Ben, and that's always an issue, right? As a baby boomer, like, we grew up when your finances were just tight. Like, nobody knew about your finances. And so when this came out, and when you started the channel, I was always surprised at how transparent, you know, even before Blossom, you were on the channel, because it's something that I would never do. And then I was on Blossom for a period of time, and I sort of saw the exchange of information, and I just thought, what the heck? And I thought back to all the years I worked with clients, and, like, people didn't really ask me, you know, what's your portfolio like? I guess they maybe just assumed that it was similar to theirs if we're the same fit, same demographic. So yeah.
Why is that? Like, why is that? Because I mean, ultimately, like, I as a younger person find that valuable, right? Like being able to see what someone else is doing is like, that's one of the most valuable things I could think about. So do you know why, like, people just didn't share?
You know what, Brandon? I don't know. I don't know. I think of, like, today, one of the slams against social media, of course, is, you know, everybody's comparing themselves to everybody else. And you've got the perfect life and the perfect family and the perfect, you know, body and everything else. And people feel inferior to that. And so I don't know, maybe there was an issue like, well, okay, I've got 10,000, like you say, or I've got 50 grand. I should have more. So that may be a stumbling block there. And also I could think to my demographic, like, because I was in the business, I know that a lot of people end up retiring with not many assets. You know, the people don't do the right things. And so that's probably embarrassing for a lot of people. You know, a good question. I don't know. But the thing is with Blossom, you can, well, first of all, I'll say, I don't know, this isn't said, I don't think it's enough. We can disagree on this, Brandon, but, like, you don't have to link your account. You know, that, but yeah. So if a piece of reluctance to join is, well, I don't want to go on there and, you know, during the sign up process have to link my account. You don't. That's totally optional. But there are some benefits to doing that, clearly. And yeah, when I recently made a couple of trades, and you can put little logic behind what I did here, or people will ask, oh, I noticed you bought this or sold that. You know, do you mind, you know, what the logic? And there's some really good contributors who will go through in depth the thought process. But so that's kind of cool. I would always advise against copy trading, you know, going on, oh, well, Mark did this or Brandon did this, so I'm going to do it too. I think that's
a big thing we're kind of against. I don't know.
No, I definitely
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll
say.
Go. Yeah.
Hey, who's talking? Ben or Brandon there?
Mark, I didn't say anything. That was you guys doing that. I just love laughing.
Ben, why don't you chime in?
Okay, I was going to say. Okay, I'll jump in. Okay.
I'm not, Ben, you talk. I'm just going to sit here.
Okay. Sorry, Mark. So what I was going to say is I totally agree with that, and I agree with the core points you were sharing. So in terms of collaboration is really, really important. That's why we do the show live, truthfully, is because the chat allows us to see blind spots, bring in different topics to the conversation. It makes it a lot more stimulating, a lot like what you guys are doing. When you make something that is dry or there's a lot of friction to it and you make it more of a community thing, that's such an unlock, right? Whereas a lot of the topics that we discuss here, they're somewhat dry, right? And so we have to find a way to make it a lot more stimulating. And so we do that by veering in different directions, and also having different perspectives is a very easy way to do that. So I think that's awesome. But I also love, Mark, that you said, don't just blindly copy, right? That's what a lot of people want to do. They just want to show up and they'd be like, I want to copy exactly what you do or you did and get to the same place, which is, in my opinion, such a crazy thing to even think you could possibly do, because you weren't there for every step before that makes this step make sense.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's so dangerous because, you know, Brandon could be buying stuff that's good for him, but it's not good for the next guy. Even it could be another 30-year-old. That doesn't mean you should be invested the same. Your life situation matters, your risk tolerance, your experience, all that matters.
True.
You know, I do want to say, just while I'm thinking about it, about a week ago, Brand, maybe a little bit longer, a new feature on Blossom was launched, and it's incorporating AI. And I don't know who picked the name. I think maybe Max, the CEO.
I think Max liked the name, yeah.
But I worked on a team, and we kind of developed essentially to simulate, if you're sitting down with an advisor and you're asking an advisor questions, or what are the types of things you want to know. So we developed the first version of that some time ago, and they just bumped it up. And the advisor is called Beavis, Beevis, sort of, and you know, the bee, and I guess it's the Blossom theme or what have you. And they've got the daily buzz and the weekly buzz newsletter, that type of thing. I was blown away when I first used it, like after the final product was out. It is amazing. I don't know if you can swear on this channel.
Go
Probably
for it.
can. I don't, but I feel like it is.
I don't
really,
ever
really
hear you
amazing.
swear any off the channel that year.
But my brain can think certain things, but I might not say it. But yeah, it is phenomenal. And I've been putting it through the paces. Just, you know, I've got my portfolio on there, and I'm asking questions like, you know, can you analyze the fixed income portion? What should I be aware of? Or, you know, the other day I talked about, I think Microsoft. Yeah, because I own Microsoft. It's, you know, pulled back quite a bit in the last number of months. So give me some pros and cons as to why I might want to consider adding to my position. And the depth, and I would say the accuracy of what it tells you is phenomenal. So kudos to the team for throwing that out. But that's you know, sort of another benefit. Even if you don't, I guess most people probably aren't active in leaving comments and responding, and most people kind of lurk, I guess. But even if you go in on your own and do that for your portfolio, holy cow, is it insightful. Just a shout out for that.
Totally. I think that the AI thing, Keith, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. Like, I'm so super curious to see how people will be with taking advice from AI on their personal finances. You know what I mean? Because like, I would love to hear your thoughts on that, Keith.
Well, I mean, people are asking AI about their health stuff,
True.
so I
Yeah,
think that's easy. So yeah,
You could be broke or you could die. Which one are you going to pick? Right?
So yeah, I mean, I could totally see people continuing in that direction, especially with at this moment in particular. At least it's super cheap, right? I mean, how much you're having to pay to get access to information around finance, and or to delegate that to someone else, it's, you know, you're gonna pay a pretty penny. And I mean, I've even noticed it too. A lot of people, when they bring questions to me, it's like after they've chatted with ChatGPT or whatever about it, and I don't know that it's necessarily always great. I mean, you guys have built out something custom, right? That's actually, you know, meant to address these issues. And so that's something that's very different than just, you know, going to the base ChatGPT and asking it about, you know, what to do. So plus, if you have insights and data on what the person actually has going on inside of their portfolio, that's a whole different equation, right? Because a lot of people might not even know what information, right, that they should provide to a ChatGPT when they're trying to ask it questions. And the AI literate thing to do would be to ask ChatGPT, hey, what do you need to know from me in order to make this assessment? But, you know, that's definitely not exactly how these platforms are being used at the moment. Another thing that I wanted to touch on too is like this copy trading thing, because this is a big part of the online financial culture. People pay crazy amounts of money. There's all of these different gurus and stuff that have these huge groups where they're making millions of dollars a year selling signals, basically kind of selling people on the idea that you just copy me and then you win. And most of the time, people aren't necessarily winning or being super profitable from these signals that they're getting from these people, whether it's because they're the ones who are selling the signals are not profitable, or just the way that they're using the signals is not profitable as well. Like, once again, if you're getting a signal from someone else, you've got to execute on it in time for it to actually still make sense for you, and like all of this stuff in general. What do you guys think about kind of that kind of culture? How do you distance yourself from it? And then also, do you think that, what are your thoughts on active trading in general?
Well, I'll sort of chime in on that, Keith. Yeah, to your point, if you're going to actively manage a portfolio, it is a full-time job. Like you can't do it after work, or you can't sort of watch your phone while you're doing your daily stuff. If you're going to be, looking for, like, say, technical trading signals, I've got a very, very close friend who, that's all, he's a day trader. That's what he does. He doesn't work for anybody. That's how he manages his family wealth. And you don't call him during the day. Like he's, well, our time, the market's open at 6:30. So at 5:30, he's in front of his computer getting ready to go, and he's on. He takes his, breaks, because you'd fry your brain if you didn't. But the way he manages it, you got to have so many safeguards in place, and you can't go for a pee without closing out your positions. If you're going to be like truly an active trader like that. And most people don't appreciate how much effort. And the problem is, if you miss one or two opportunities or signals, well, then you wipe out everything you've done. And I've seen that over and over in the, when I was younger in my career, I traded in the options markets a little bit, and I didn't take me long to realize, holy cow, this is a whole subset of the industry. And, I didn't have an interest in going into it and, staring at graphs and charts all day long. So yeah, it's dangerous. That's my take on it.
I think a big thing too is like,
hey, Brian, your mic's a little bit quiet there.
I'll raise it up. Is that better? Is that much better?
Yeah.
I was gonna say a big thing too is like that trading life is just not cut out for I would say the vast majority of people. Like I know exactly what you're talking about. Your very close friend who is the day trader, and like you got to have a certain, I would argue, like personality type, and the way you are, like temperament. You got to be a certain type of person, and that's the reality. Is for the vast majority of people who may be influenced by their emotions and psychology a little more than the others, like the average person, not cut out for it. However, it is the most appealing. Like when you're new, when you hear about stocks and you hear about the idea of getting into the stock market, that is what you get drawn to, right? I mean, the boring, slow and steady, hey, get wealthy over time approach is not as sexy as the day traders, right? So, I mean, to your point, Keith, like I get why these discords and these groups where they're getting the trade calls and copy trading, like I get why they are just blowing up, because that's how people are drawn into it. But I think I'll just flat out say it's a mistake to think that, the average person is going to be you have what it takes to be a successful trader. I think you got to be an outlier to be someone who is going to be a successful long-term trader. Whereas if you are the average person, you can be a successful investor, right? Being a successful investor, I think, is applicable to everybody. There's a few principles you need to follow and a few kind of habits you need to do. That anybody can do that, but not anyone can be a trader. And I think that emotional regulation, Matthew, like what he just called out, that's the thing, right? Like you got to be a specific type of breed to do it consistently for a long time. You might get lucky too, and I think that's another thing too. Is like right now markets are like in the gutter, like a crap. The whole world is in the gutter, in my opinion. But when the markets are like pumping and when sentiment is high, that's particularly where you see these trade calls and discords really gaining some volume. But that ebbs and flows.
Just going to comment on Matthew's comment there about emotional regulation. And you'll hear a million times over, and I disagree with it fundamentally, but you'll hear like, don't let your emotions factor into your decisions. And when I worked, we are all emotional people. So I agree, don't let emotion drive a decision today. But I think it's a mistake to factor out your emotions. And when I work with clients over decades in some cases, some people are just more emotional than others. And what I would do with certain clients, literally, I had a binder, I probably got one here, like a little notebook, and I would give them a notebook and say, when you're feeling some emotion, like write it down. Why are you feeling it? Are the markets up? Greed comes in. Are the markets down? Fear comes in. And document your journey. And 5 years goes by in a hurry, right? And so you can look back and go, oh, the last time the VIX spiked, here's what I felt like doing. Here's what I did. It worked out. It didn't. And create your own track record. And that is massive. So I say, understand your emotions. Don't just throw them out the door, and understand what they are and train yourself to use those to just trade, I would say, responsibly, because it's kind of the irresponsible stuff that gets people in trouble. So just a thought on the emotions and regulating, and
Perfectly said. I talk about this quite a bit on the channel. I have a book that I read last year called Market Mind Games by a lady named Denise Shull. And she is basically like a performance coach for hedge fund managers. And the whole book is about this exact concept of, instead of thinking of emotions as something to control or to like
Yeah.
block, it's like actually you're supposed to look at them as data. Emotions is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
data point,
I
right?
like that.
And that
Yeah.
idea of writing things down, it also calms your amygdala, which is responsible for your fear and anxiety responses, and it activates your prefrontal cortex, gets you to think more clearly about the decisions that you're actually making. And so, scientifically, right, there is a benefit to taking the time to write things down, slow down, and actually take inventory of how you're
Mm.
feeling, especially if you were to try to do something actively in the markets. Um,
Very well said. Yeah, that's awesome.
And Keith's a trader, so he has experience in this.
yes.
So he knows and I would say for most people, like I love what I think it was Mark, you said this, that it's not for most people, or maybe it was Brandon, but Keith is like who it's for. And I think a lot of people think they're like Keith and they're really not. And so Keith, I'd love to hear like that journey, because you literally said that, and you repeat this to me all the time. You're like, almost all of my trading journey was like me. Do you know
Mm.
what I'm saying? So like,
Mhm.
how does someone even assess themselves in that regard? Because I think self-awareness is not something that's in high supply.
I mean, I think there's two things to it. Like, I hate to ever say that like there's just like someone who can't do it or like wouldn't be fit for it. I think it comes down to, for me, what it's come down to is being aware of, um, I guess, just like why you're doing what you're doing, right? And I think it's so interesting to me because I do think that you zoom in on what you're doing in the market, but then you zoom out and you look at your life, and if you aren't bringing, you're there, right? You're the one that's on the charts. You're the one who's making these decisions. So it's all about who you are in every other aspect of your life. Um, for me to even get close to the things that I've done with my trading now, I wouldn't have been able to get anywhere near it many years ago in terms of having the discipline that I have, in terms of just doing the things that need to be done, being able to not um, react physically to things that I might be feeling, right? And truly just taking that in as a data point. I think, um, yeah, I mean, it's 100% you who's showing up to the charts every day. And so if you're not aware of who you are, if you're not aware of your desires, you're not aware of the things that you're afraid of, then all of it's going to show up, and it's going to show up in ways that are unpredictable if you can't predict it from yourself in
Mhm.
that way. So I don't know if that really fully answered the question, but it definitely is 100% a journey of something internal. I think that if you're someone who's introspective, sorry, Mark Andreessen,
Yeah.
it might actually be helpful in this game because you're going to make mistakes too. And then it's like, how hard are you on yourself when you make those mistakes, or how can you
Mm.
move forward and say, hey, this was something that I either needed to experience and I'm going to learn from, or uh, I'm the worst person ever.
That piece is great, Keith, because I think where the psychology is for the average investor, especially for the young person, is that they take these absurdly high risk things and then they don't work. And then they're like, I'm an idiot. It's like, you were always going to lose. Like the thing that you did is not about you here. It's just like, if you looked at the numbers, you were not going to win. That's a big thing with gambling too. We see gambling popping up everywhere. We talk about the show quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you guys seen like that change in terms of people's desire to get at more risk, high reward stuff? Like, do you see that reflected in Blossom activity?
I don't know about like particularly. Do you think so, Dad? I think
I
like
think
again, I
there.
think it ebbs and flows based on like just general sentiment. Like right now, I feel like there's a real people don't really want to take on risk, um, in this
Well, and I
moment.
and I guess it depends too. Like there is an element of traders on Blossom who are aggressive, active, higher risk. Now, the algorithm says I probably don't want to watch a lot of that, so I don't. The feeds I see are
Got it.
prioritized. More based on what I am. And you can join communities. I think they're called, Brandon, or whatever the groups. And so I didn't pick day trading as one of the threads I want to follow. So I'll probably see more, just mainstream, longer
Fixed
term
income bonds,
quality
and
investing feeds. So I don't really know. I know it's on there, but
yeah.
So
And I imagine in general, your community, just based off of the little things that I've seen, is definitely skewed away from
From
that
that.
kind of
I
activity
think
for
so.
sure.
On purpose,
Keith,
yeah.
Keith, I don't know you off the camera, but you seem like a pretty chill dude, which I think is good for the way that you manage money. And your demeanor reminds me of this buddy who's a day trader. He is just so chill, so pragmatic. He approaches it like if I debrief with him at the end of a day and just say how was trading, he will mostly say something like, "Oh, I missed a couple opportunities." He's not taking undue risk. He's kind of managing that risk. So you limit the upside as well as the downside. But he's probably a few years away from retirement, and so he's managing it that way. But yeah, just I think your demeanor is suitable for the type of thing you do. If you're kind of I say off camera, you might be a wild and crazy guy. I'm not
No, he's what you see. He's what you see for sure.
Gotcha.
I appreciate that. That's cool to hear. Yeah.
But question I wanted to ask you guys is because you have different perspectives in terms of your age profiles. Because I think Canada and really the world is very much split that way, where people who are like my parents' age, they see money and finance and they think the economy is this way because they bought houses when it was a fantastic time to buy a house. And I talk about this all the time in Canada, is how tightly connected our entire economy is to the housing market. And I always say this to Keith because people get it, but they don't really get it. In Canada, in my opinion, it's like split. It's like, were you able to buy property or were you not? Because of how much crazy inflation we've seen in those prices. How do you see the difference in terms of how people like Brandon, your age, see the market and approach to investing versus Mark? Like, what's the differences? Do they talk to each other? Like, what are the perspectives?
Brandon, you fire away.
If we're talking specifically about real estate, I'm not sure if I picked up your question entirely, Ben, but how we view investing, like real estate investing or just investing in general.
So most of my family friends, their wealth is really all because they bought houses at the right time.
Right.
And so
how is our generation viewing that?
Yes.
It's interesting. I think, to be completely honest, maybe it's just the area I grew up in here. Like I grew up in Vancouver, a little south part of Vancouver. Obviously house prices are kind of crazy. It's either split. Like there's either someone who maybe has either to be honest, like help from their family, like they have some wealth that's going to come in or help with a down payment, whatnot. It's like, you know what? They still have this big priority and objective of becoming a homeowner. And many of them around my peer group, I'm 30 years old right now. Like many of them are just kind of on that bubble about either doing it or they've got a condo or they got an apartment. The other camp just does not give a, like it's a far gone. Like it doesn't matter. And what's interesting is I don't think that's a bad thing. Like I actually personally, now that, I've gotten a bit older, got a bit more experience in life, this like narrative of just like renting is just throwing away money, I personally actually don't buy into at all. In fact, I actually think the benefits of it, I've seen a really interesting video, Ben. I'm sure you're familiar with Ben Felix, Canadian, basically icon when it comes to finance. He actually did a speech at one of our events. So we also hosted a huge event, which Ben, you should come to this year. I don't know where you're going to be at, but
would love to, man.
So we did, we took over basically the Rogers Center, right, Dad? That's where the Blue Jays play.
Yeah, Rogers Center.
The big, previously Sky Dome in Toronto.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was massive. So we rent out the entire thing.
Whoa.
I think we had, just shy of 2,000 people out for like a huge conference, and we're doing it again this year. But Ben Felix spoke on a really interesting topic, which was the renting versus buying. And I think he has YouTube videos on it as well. So I'll shout out and point people there if anyone's in that exact like decision point. He made a really compelling case that renting is arguably, it's a false narrative to think that you have to be a homeowner now in the modern day, especially when you consider, like you said, Ben, like we're living in a different world where it's not the same time, Dad, when you look at like the income to housing costs, like, yeah, we're speaking two different languages here, especially in like a Vancouver or Toronto. So all that to say, I personally, if I was talking to my young like peers, if they want to have the home ownership, that's a huge like goal for them. Like, good, go for it. But I would almost steer them like, don't pin yourself. Your life goal shouldn't be to become a home owner nowadays, in Vancouver at least.
Yeah, a couple of things. Number one is for a lot of the younger crowd, actually for a lot of any age people, if you're not a homeowner now, it's damn tough to like in the areas like where you live, Brandon, Toronto areas, probably Montreal, similar, and name the US city, to come up with a down payment is a lot of work for a lot of people. It's a lot of sacrifice. And so I actually feel a real soft spot for especially the younger people who don't have the opportunity. Yeah, back in my day, I mean, you'd buy a house and I don't know, it'd be 50 grand, 80 grand, whatever. Now, if you're talking $1980, yeah, it's still a lot. It's still a percentage because you didn't make as much then as you do now. But that raw dollar number became, 500, a million, 2 million, whatever the number is, right? So, and if you look at our numbers here, yeah, the vast majority of wealthy Canadians, a big chunk of that, like you said, Ben, came from property, right?
Mhm.
Um, I have gone through my lifetime, periods of owning, periods of renting, and I think one of the things that I would just argue against is if I think either way, you need to invest. And I think a lot of, like, in fact, maybe even more so, the periods of time that I did over my lifetime rent, I also had an investment portfolio. And so the markets will do their things too. I mean, 1980, if you bought a portfolio of, blue chips companies or a property in Vancouver, you probably end up pretty much the same place at the end of the day. Taxes are a little bit different depending whether it's, our tax laws are different here. That's one of the things that Canadians just hate about the American system is you guys get to write off the interest charge. I think, Keith, if I'm not mistaken, the interest part of your mortgage, you don't hear.
Wow.
But also, you know, Keith, like when you buy a principal residence, you live there for 20 years, you sell it. Do you pay capital gains on that property or no?
If it's your primary residence, I think it depends on the state, I think, and the ways that you have to
Right. Oh,
do all of
sure.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Because the reason I say here, you don't get to write off the interest as a carrying cost, but it's fully, if it's your principal residence, you can $2 million capital gain and you pay nothing on it. So it's kind
Yeah.
of works both
Interesting.
ways, I guess.
Yeah, it can be great that way, but then the problem is when everything else is so damn expensive, it's like you're selling something that's super expensive,
Yeah.
but then
Oh,
you have to go buy something else that's super expensive.
yeah. What a lot of not a lot, what a number of my clients did when they got to that phase, is they would, call it downsizing. They'd have a very valuable property. And I'm thinking now the people I'm thinking about are actually were widows, as opposed to couples, but husband dies at 75 or whatever, and the wife doesn't feel like she wants to manage a home or whatever. On a number of occasions, they would sell that property and then just take the money and then rent from that point on. They could travel more, not burdened with the maintenance of a property. So in that case, but like you say, Brandon, a lot of people would say, "But like, I need to own a home," and there was this built-in.
Big mental thing.
It's almost embarrassing if I'm 75 years old and I'm renting. Like that's not embarrassing if you have money to fund your lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's-
It's become like I talk about that all the time, where it's basically like a very much a psychological thing, especially here in
Yeah.
Canada. And the example that I gave to Keith, because he's not from here, was if there's like two groups of parents talking, and then they were to say like, "Oh, how's
Yeah.
so and so doing?" The first thing they'd say is like, "Bought a house," right? Like that's like a point
Yeah,
of like
yeah.
bragging, even if it was a horrendous financial decision.
Yeah, that's so true, right?
Super fascinating.
Yeah.
Or just it'd be, my son, he's doing really well. He locked in a really good low rental property, with rent controls, and so he'll be fine. Yeah, like that doesn't have the same ring to it, right? Although at the end of the
It might be the
day,
better decision. Yeah.
it could be the better decision. Exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah.
One of the things that feel like I've started to see, I mean, I guess my perspective is skewed in this, but um, I've talked to some people while I was traveling about this same conversation of like where you're from. Are people looking at buying homes? Are young people thinking that that's like the normal thing to do? How does that look? And while traveling, I've run into people that have said, uh, well, one of the things that they're thinking about is the fact that they don't want to be tied down to one particular place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think that the internet probably starts to illuminate, right, a lot of the different options that people have around where they could live in the world, the different prices of living in different places in the world. And when you talk about that piece of having your living costs, right, covered, that looks totally different if you're in a place like Southeast Asia and Thailand than it does in Canada. And so you can have way less going on, and be able to retire essentially, and live your life without having owned any property anywhere, if you make decisions like that too.
Totally. Well,
Well,
in the last few minutes we
when
have with you guys, sorry, I just want to
Oh.
get very tactical because I know you guys got a hard out. If someone, because people are obsessed with how the cost of living in Canada and how it's basically impossible to build wealth. I would love to throw the floor to you guys and say like why that's not the case, because we try to give some optimism for people on this show. So how can someone who works like a normal job start building wealth?
I'll just go back to, the sort of, I guess you just call it fundamentals. First of all, I think you have to have faith. You have to believe in the system. And, we talked earlier about get rich quick versus, slow and steady, doing the right thing a lot of time. And it's kind of like many years ago, I wasn't a runner, and a friend of mine suggested that I start training. We do a half marathon together. And I said, well, I can't, like, I don't know how to run. And then she said, well, run around the block today, and then tomorrow run around twice. And so I did it and accomplished that with her. But it was little steps to get started. And I think, Brandon, you will certainly attest to this, but I remember, I started my first investment at age 18 because my dad was in the business and he kind of made me do it. And if you just establish the discipline, it takes time. That's the biggest thing. I used to always laugh with my clients. Like, if you go and buy a big screen TV, you take it home that day, you put it on the wall, and you can see if it's good or not. But I ask people to entrust me for 20 years, 30 years with their money. Well, I only work for 27 in the business, but decades, saying, I know you can't see it right now, but in 10 years or in 20 years, you will see. And it's really hard. It's a big ask to ask people to do that. But have faith in it. If you look back over history, use that as a guide. And yeah, it does work, but you've got to be disciplined. You got to put money away. It doesn't just come magically. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I know, Brandon, I think in a way you're lucky because you grew up in a family where we just talked about money all the time and investing. So you started very young, and you've diversified a little bit between stocks and real estate and all that kind of thing. And what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'd obviously echo that. And I think that's almost like the default baseline, like you said, is like surround yourself around the money conversation, surround yourself around financial literacy, and understand that will take time, right? But it's something that we all need to be doing. I'll give my, I guess, answer to the question too, Ben, is that like in the modern day right now, like if you want to be real about it, if someone's working just like your typical 9 to 5, unless you have like a scorching job where you have like sick benefits and like a nice high pay, I think it's a very, very, very valuable use of someone's free time to like find ways to increase that income. Like realistically, right? Like we're all entrepreneurs here. We've all done it. I mean, we're living proof that you can build a business or an agency or whatever it may be, content. Like, there is no better time, in my opinion, to be doing these little side hustles. And I get it. Not everyone's like cut out to be some content creator, but I'm talking to anything like, the little money you make from a dog walking or dog sitting, like every little dollar you can increase on your monthly income. And then tying back to what you're saying, Dad, if you put that money to work properly, we all understand compounding here, right? So that is, I think, the lever that the average person can pull. It takes a bit of work, but it's like, how bad do you want it, right? How bad do you want it 10, 15, 20 years from now? You could be lazy and play video games and watch TV and Netflix, or you could try and make a little bit extra money here on the side. And that would be my take for anybody who really wants to, I guess, succeed financially and later in life.
Brandon, you mentioned the word literacy and, education. And I think a huge part of it. And that's where, something like, pick and choose your YouTube channels where you feel that you will benefit from it, filter through something that, it may be hard, but find something you feel comfortable with. Listen to the podcasts, go on Blossom and find a niche there where it inspires you. But you do need to be inspired, I think, and get that started. And once you get it sort of a habit, I mean, it's hard. I have the luxury of looking back literally 40 years now, 45 years, and going, it can work. But if you're 20 today, it's hard to imagine you're as old as me, but you will be one day. And so do stuff now because you can't go back and change the hands of time.
I think a lot of people also just kind of think the sky is falling too, though. So they're like, what's the point in doing this small amounts of investing when the whole world won't exist in 5 years? You know what I mean?
I see that.
Well, again, though, if you're a student of history, like, I was chatting recently, when I was your guys' age, it was the threat of, big bad Russia nuking us. And we did, we talked about, they do sadly, things in schools now to prepare the children for sad events. And we stressed over a bomb dropping on our heads. And if you go back through my lifetime, what we're going through right now is disruptive, but it has been as bad or worse before. and it will be again if we're talking even 40 years from now. So yeah, but you can feel that. But when you look, it's like every time the market crashes, like, oh, I'm gonna lose all my money. Well, the market's crashed from time to time, right? And so it could be an opportunity. So yeah, I would say sort of dispel that fear that the world's gonna end. It won't.
Hopefully.
I'm pretty confident.
We'll see
I bet
about
$100 on that 5 years from now, the world will still be here.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
I love that, Brandon, about the income piece, because it's one of the things that I think a lot of people overlook. So I go over what I call like the 3 levers of wealth. And the first thing that everyone wants to focus on is their yearly returns. Like, how can I make more on my, investment that I'm putting down? The second thing I say you've got is your capital contributions, or your income, essentially, right? How much money are you able to put into the markets? And then the third being the time. Also very overlooked, but the thing to really supercharges everything is if you start making more money, it can completely change the entire dynamic.
Yeah.
There's like this obsession with finance right now, and like, once again, really trying to increase that returns lever. But the thing that's interesting about it all is that if you understand fully the playing field of finance, if you really understand the things that for sure have worked over time, then the way to supercharge that system that you can put in place for yourself is by increasing that income. So it's really good to have the foundation of the finance in place, but you've got to do it the right way. And then from there, you can compound and compound on your compounding, and when you increase your income. So
it takes making $1. I think a lot of people have this very fixed mindset where they're like, I'm not that kind of person who does this. The only difference is doing the action. It's like, yeah, of course you weren't a walker until you decided to freaking walk. Right? Like, I don't understand this mental box where people are like, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm like, you go to work, you do a set of tasks. This is the exact same thing, but you're picking those set of tasks. It's the same shit.
Yeah. Something, Brandon, you're probably anticipating me saying this because something I've spoken about a lot when it comes to and you know what? There are a lot of people really struggling. We can't discount that.
Totally,
right?
110%.
Literally, they don't have $100 a month to put in an investment. I get that, and I don't say that it doesn't exist. There are a lot of people who don't invest, who could put $100 a month in to get started, and then increase that as their capabilities come along. But people will say, I just don't have it. At the end of the month, I'm done. So another advisor I heard many years ago, he gave it back in the day, 40 grand was like a pretty good salary. And he said, imagine you're earning $40,000 a year and you go into work and the boss says, I got bad news. Job secure, but we got to lower your wage. You're going to make $39,900 a month going forward. So $100 less in your wage, right? You wouldn't say, well, I better go look for a new job now because $100 less income is coming in. So his point was, you just scale back your spending $100 a month, and you take that and dedicate it to automatic monthly investment. After 3 months, you forgot it's even happening, and it just starts to build. And that just, the numbers work. That compounds over time.
100%. No, I love that, guys. I want to be thoughtful of your time. I know you guys said you had an out in an hour. You've already given us more time. So everyone here watching live, go show them some love. Both their YouTube channel and the link to Blossom Social are the first links in the description box down below. So go sign up for Blossom and go follow Beavis Wealth. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on the show. It was a ton of fun. I talk about Canada all the time on this show, and Keith just kind of nods like he's like, yeah, cool. So it's great to have other people on.
I'll give a quick shout out for Nashville as well, where Keith is, because that is one of my favorite cities, and can't wait to get back there one day. We'll hook up for a glass of beer in one of the country bars, Keith.
Oh yeah, man. Let me know.
Love it.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Marc.
Thanks, man. Good to see you.
Nice to meet you
Have a great
guys.
day, guys.
Yeah.
See ya.
Okay.
All right.
It's a pleasure,
Bye-bye.
guys.
So, Marc, whenever you're good, just click the leave button and you're good to go.
All right.
Sweet.
Fantastical.
How we feeling, chat?
What up, chat? In the building.
So go over, check out Beavis Wealth. They drop a ton of content there. And honestly, like, if you're new to investing or building wealth, I recommend going to watch Brandon's very old videos, because he talks about the foundations, right? Like the really boring stuff, which we've talked about this in crypto too, where that stuff really gets pushed down because a lot of the current day creators just assume that everyone knows that stuff. And so it doesn't get brought up as frequently because they think it won't pull as many views. So Yeah, definitely go check out their channel. Keith, what
Most,
comes up from that
most
conversation for you?
the one thing that I wanted to expand on a little bit is this idea around the trading and stuff, and like what I feel like is happening in society is people are getting more desperate.
Totally.
And so they're trying to find ways. And the thing about trying to use trading as that way is that that's the worst place to go if you're more desperate, right?
Can you explain why?
Yeah, because essentially markets, the way that they move is designed to take advantage of the desperate people, right? The more of a time crunch that you have, the more that the market is going to play you. The more of a money crunch that you have, the more that the market is going to work against you, essentially. Um, Market makers, right? Their job is to facilitate transactions, right? But what happens from a logistical standpoint is that um, the size of your account is going to determine, for instance, how long you're able to stay in a trade if it were to go against you to some degree. And so if your account is smaller, or really it's not about the size of the account as much as the risk that you're putting up in that account.
Mm-hmm.
If you're putting 50% of your account on the line, then the market can move just a little bit against you and you can completely lose everything in that account. And so what happens is people are getting more desperate because they have less money. So what are they doing? They're taking their $100 and they're putting the entire $100 on the line. But that makes it to where it pretty much becomes very hard for you to actually win because the market can move against you and you still be right,
Mm-hmm.
but you will be out. You'll be out of the game.
Totally.
And so the thing that it really comes down to is, for one, patience. You can't come in here into the markets and just immediately win.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to consistently see your edge play out over time. And that's going to be the most difficult thing, is if you're coming into this from a desperate place, uh, it's pretty much impossible to actually be successful. And once again, people are getting more desperate because of what's happening outside of the charts. And then you come to the charts thinking that it's going to help you with that situation. But if you treat it that way, then it's actually going to backfire.
Yeah, the practice of attempting to try to time the market is you're never going to win that way. And then when you need to time the market, that's like even just like the energetic stuff there is typically not going to go in your favor.
100%. It's all it is. I mean, that's what markets are in the short term, is this. And even when you extrapolate it out, it's this energetic battle. It's warfare at the end of the day, between people with and people without. And if you're coming to that as someone who's thinking as without, then you'll be on that side of the equation.
Totally. 100%. Yeah. And I think that just starting is a very important step, and building a routine that you do every single month, and trusting that can do some stuff. Like I've been preaching this stuff to, I got a few buddies that didn't go to college. They went right into the workforce, and they never had much money disposably each month. So they didn't invest anything. And I'm like, dude, if you had even been putting $100 a month into these things since you were 18, like you'd be sorted.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But if you constantly live in the mindset of, oh, I only have $500, so I'm going to spend that $500 to make myself feel better, you'll always have to do that. That's always like, delayed gratification is really the cheat code for almost anything you want to achieve. Like whether that be business, it's like who can go the longest without enjoying the fruits of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like how long, and like that's why in my businesses, like why I'm very confident that eventually I will win, is because there's been so long that I've been working and like not been making money from it. Right? Just reinvesting back into employees, back into infrastructure, back. So like I have a lot of leverage, but very little cash. But eventually that does come back to you if you're willing to continue to put in the work.
Love it, man.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
Anything else that y'all want to chop it up on, or should we get into the news for the day?
What you got for us, chat? You got a little bit of news today.
Should we get into it?
Let's get into the news here live on Memes and Markets. So this week we had a ceasefire announcement. I guess, yeah, from the last time we spoke, the world was about to end.
I'm glad it didn't.
So no civilization has died and the world is still here. And during that time, there was some news that came out that there were traders that placed a large $950 million bet on the oil price falling just hours ahead of the ceasefire.
Do you see Prof G's clip on this?
No, actually, I've not.
So actually, former producer Kurt sent it to me, and he's like, "Yo, you guys got to talk about this on the show." And he basically said it was like the largest insider trading event ever, something like that. It is one of his
Wow.
very, very recent clips. Let me try to find it, and then we'll play it. I'll send it to you.
Yeah. So, this also happened a couple of weeks ago with the other 5-day delay or something that happened in between. And there was something like billions of dollars that were just on the line without a hedge, apparently, at that time. So there's a representative from New York, I believe, in the United States, who's trying to get an investigation opened up about this. He said something around like this was a statistical impossibility that it was not insider trading, essentially. Um, and and it was interesting because I made a little bit of a joke in my most recent short about this. I was like, well, at least this time they gave it a few hours before, they actually did it, because that last time a few weeks ago was 15 minutes before the announcement was dropped by Trump that they had placed that trade. So
Yeah,
maybe they're learning.
You talked about this on your most recent short, right?
Yes, correct.
Sweet, man. Yeah, I'm trying to find the clip. I found one. I don't know if it's the exact one. I sent it to you in the group chat. I think that was the
Cool.
one.
This was 2 days ago, so it's possible. Yeah, let's go for it. Awesome.
Trigger most of our audience. They'll agree with half of this. We're in the midst of what will be seen as the greatest financial scandal in history. We're using the U.S. military, our geopolitical currency globally, all as a means of creating volatility such that the president can engage in insider trading. And the ultimate example of that, and the most corrupt one, where he will be in front of a camera and a jury in 3 to 5 years, pretending to be really old and that he doesn't remember. He is giving so much information to people about what he is about to say, not about to say, about the war in Iran, because every time he says anything resembling a cogent date around the end, or even a strategy here, the markets surge and oil drops. There is massive options activity before he makes these announcements. So clearly word is leaking out. He knows it's leaking out. He's obviously leaking this information on purpose to his friends and family. And it's not the insider trading that is so upsetting. That's criminal. What's upsetting is he's using our military, our tax dollars, the death and destruction of other people and U.S. service members' lives as pawns in what I believe the greatest insider trading scheme in history. And just so I trigger most of our audience, they'll agree with half of this.
So yeah, very interesting, and it's funny how he's projecting out into the future. Also, this idea of like, him acting like he doesn't know, doesn't remember, and he's old and stuff. I was watching someone yesterday was talking about how this entire administration, right, is going to have an interesting situation on their hands when
It's over.
Trump is not in power.
Yeah, so with the, you got to think they're going to try to rewrite a lot of stuff, like you've said before, right? Where you can't be making moves like this unless you think there's going to be different rules later.
Yes. And I mean, that's the thing that I'm the most fearful of in general, is like, so when I heard him say that, whoever it was I was listening to, I was like, dude, like, maybe that's why, they're moving the way they're moving, is because the end goal here is for him to not come out of office.
Yeah, and even like there's so many opportunities for a lot of this stuff to be rewritten. And if we say all the time that most problems are a money problem, like Clive had said, like a financial reset is at some point going to happen. It's like, I think about that all the time, right? Because when Jeff Booth's thesis, if it comes to fruition, where do the power dynamics go? Right? Like that completely changes the structure of everything, because why are authoritarian governments able to be authoritarian? It's because they dictate the access to capital and resources and basically taking care of yourself. And so that goes away if that's no longer the currency of use. So I think about that all the time, where if anyone who's never seen the episode, I strongly recommend to go watch our episode with Jeff Booth. He basically thinks that Bitcoin is a financial protocol that things will be built upon that will essentially revolutionize money and how we see it, right? And so a lot of people, they don't think like this because it is very big picture thinking. We go on the internet and we use the experiences every single day, but we don't realize that like people, like there was different protocols competing to be what the internet was. And now it's the thing that we all use and we don't even think about, but it's the most important infrastructure. right? Like that's
Right.
what I find that so funny. Is like we all go to this place and we use this thing every day, and no one's like, why did we do this? It's the same with money, right? Like no
Mhm.
one really thinks about it. It governs their entire existence, but they don't really think about where it's coming from, what kind of power that gives to people, how are we being robbed in this existing system? All things that Jeff tried to go and break down. And I who knows, man? Like Trump's pretty pro Bitcoin. Like who knows if they've just been planning this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. No doubt that that could easily come into the picture here of what comes next. Um, we're also seeing a lot of talk about Bitcoin right now with the whole situation with the war and Strait of Hormuz and Iran potentially trying to accept Bitcoin
Mhm.
uh, as the payment for the toll, as well as really potentially other cryptocurrencies as well. But so, anyways, definitely is going to continue to be a part of the geopolitical picture. And um, I mean, there's tons of conspiracies about Trump, being someone to usher in like, a new crypto standard of some sort. So,
Well, there was even that was it Russian official where they said that this is exactly what
oh
they were
yeah,
trying to do?
yeah, yeah, that was pretty wild. Russian official came out and said they're trying to wipe out the debt with stable coins and gold and crypto. And yeah, that was what, like 7 months ago that came out. And Trump on his campaign trail uh, multiple times said, well, why don't we just,
Right, a little
wipe out our debt with a little crypto check?
Yeah, that's the thing, man, right? Is that a lot of people who are like, "Oh, Trump would never do stuff like that because like he wouldn't win from it." It's like, well, if he's been positioning himself for this event that he could manufacture, he could win disproportionately compared to everyone else, right? So I think that's a little naive to think like, "Oh, he would never do this to like screw his own existing wealth." It's like there's a pretty high conviction play on crypto for them and their family.
Yeah. So speaking on that, there's been some reports coming out today about Trump actually attending a meme coin conference. So Trump to attend a meme coin conference later this month from Politico, but then I also saw saw the update to that headline that was a little bit different than that, which said that Trump is actually going to host a meme coin conference at Mar-a-Lago on April 25th. So, fascinating idea there. We obviously know that Trump released his own meme coin right before he took office
This guy screwed us so
in
hard.
2025, marking the top of the market. But so apparently, yeah, they're not done yet. They're going to host a meme coin conference at Mar-a-Lago as the sitting president of the United States, which I mean,
Wild.
people were like, is there not more important things going on at the moment, to take care of? But I can't imagine what that's about. I think we're living in a very weird timeline. Even when that happened, when he launched the meme coin, I was just like so confused. I was like, there's no way this is what's actually happening,
And
right?
then to double up with the Melania one, that was crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Nuts. And that one just completely rug pulled.
That could have been buying him time to do all this though, right? Like if you
In what way?
illegitimize the crypto space at large, like that really created a ricochet effect where basically the entire crypto market got laughed at again. Especially like if you release these things, you make a short-term pump and you make almost everyone else get screwed. And then also the people that were already here betting on the infrastructure change, they also get screwed. Like how many people have we lost in crypto?
Hmm.
Right? So if you were to do this, you got to shake out the people who could win from this. Like the only people, what I will say for this, for people who are worried about the markets, is like the only people still in crypto, you can probably send it to zero and they'll still be here.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's super fascinating to think about. Like technically, you you might want as many people to be aware as possible, and then make them be aware, let them be aware, but then have them not like it,
Hmm.
and then basically they won't participate no matter what happens because they see it, they get it, they see it, but they're like, I don't want to own that thing. It's too manipulated, and then by the time that it continues to run and do whatever it does, they've just
Too late.
decided that they won't participate.
Completely. There's a lot of psyop-y stuff going on with this stuff, like from the jump, right? And which direction it's going, impossible to predict. But I just think that I think crypto is part of the entire equation, and I think that will become more and more clear as time goes on. I don't know many, so Matthew in the chat would love to. We'll chop up the chat here. So I don't know many people who still hold crypto. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that still hold crypto, but have just written it off and they don't even realize that they still hold some crypto. I think that's a pretty big part of the equation. People that are openly talking about buying crypto, there's almost no one, but that's usually the best times to be buying. So to be fair. And then Cross Central says, bro, there was so much bipartisan support before Trump meme coin. Now that's also what they did, right? They connected to crypto is Trump. And that was just so bad for us.
Oh yeah, that was. I mean, it was terrible. I was like, why would he do this to the industry? It was the only thing that was on my mind. I'm like, dude, like you are destroying us if this is what you're doing. Because I mean, yeah, there's just nothing worse that could possibly be done than the guy who's literally about to be the president launching a meme coin right before he gets in there.
Mhm.
And then the whole thing was like, oh, well, now he can be taking donations from people. They're buying his coin. What is he doing? This is corruption. And then the SEC coming out a month later and saying, oh, meme coins aren't securities. It's just a bad look. But yeah, maybe there was some intention to that. I don't know. That's interesting to think about.
And the connection to all this prediction market bullshit too. Like all the people that talk about the prediction markets, like they all are made in like a lab, man. Like people who are super pro, they're all like the same guy. They're like everybody that I see talk about it. It's a very funny phenomenon, and they always point to the same few things that are not the reasons why we dislike it. You know what I mean? Like I don't have a problem with the concept in general. It's the access to everyone to be able to speculate on everything is just a dangerous precedent in my opinion. But yeah, who knows where these things go?
Yeah, the prediction market things is super funny. Yeah, I mean a lot of the same talking points, a lot of like Brian Armstrong wannabes. And it's like I do get it. I mean, there is a huge need for things like that in the world. I think it's just a matter of, like you said, Ben, just like who's using it, why are we using it, and what kind of disclosures are we making around like what people are actually doing. But yeah,
Cool.
Next, we had an interesting piece come in this morning, actually, from the Florida Attorney General, who has just launched an investigation into OpenAI and ChatGPT. He said that AI should advance mankind, not destroy it. We're demanding answers on OpenAI's activities that have hurt kids, endangered Americans, and facilitated recent FSU mass shooting. Wrongdoers must be held accountable. So, I just saw the Nancy Pelosi tracker below said, what about launching an investigation on politicians trading stocks? Oof. But yeah, so interesting thing here going on. In general, we're going to continue to see feuds between states and technology providers and things that are coming out of this industry. It's fascinating, who's liable, what kinds of things. I think there was this thing in New York where they're trying to prevent people from using ChatGPT for their health, right? And super interesting. I saw a really good argument that was like, well, but these are the people that need that. Like you're basically blocking them from access to healthcare.
Yeah, that's a very great. There's so many complex topics and points of view that come into the equation here. I do think that we should take some lessons from what we didn't learn, or maybe we just willingly ignored from social media, where there definitely needs to be a lot more discussions about these things before the kids are using this every single day. And I do think that one of the reasons why social media became so bad was the isolation. Right? Like why, even if you saw something messed up when you were a kid and you were watching it in the family setting, your dad could explain to you the context that you could not possibly have as a 12-year-old. Right? Whereas now when these kids are using social media, they have none of that. There's no counterweights to any of these things. And we wonder why there's these crazy extremes across the board, like the incels and like the manosphere. And even like girls have the same equivalence from the other side, right? Like they think every guy is going to assault them, because if you go online, like the extremes sell and there's no really counterweight. So if you're spending more time there, it definitely feels like that. But I do think about this all the time too, Keith, where it's too much of a Wild West right now with AI. And at any given moment, there could be some legislative or regulatory change, which completely changes the business dynamic of these tools. Like at any given moment, right? Like if they just, because one thing you guys got to realize too is that a lot of the experiences that we now use every single day on our phones, those experiences were subsidized to get us hooked to the experiences, where then every other competition basically went to zero. So like, why was your first Uber ride so friggin' cheap? It's because venture capital was subsidizing that. The same thing is now happening with AI. So the reason why you can go use it for free or for $20 a month is because they're getting us hooked on it. And so at any
Right.
given moment, they could be like, oh yeah, by the way, this is now like 10x the price. Your entire systems for your internal businesses are built around that. So like, for all of our tech team, like I send stuff to like our CTO all the time. I'm like, let's be ready, like just in case, right? Like I don't want to expect a 100x charge. My credit card can't handle that. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
we need to be prepared for these kinds of systems and thinking. And when it comes to the video stuff too, we actually have a guest coming on to talk about the legal side of all these things too. But at any given moment, like who's to say that doesn't just completely change? I would actually love that. That would benefit us tremendously if you couldn't use, or there was a lot more restrictions in terms of where you could use AI video in content and advertising. I would love that.
Right. Well, and so Rob Freund is the guy who we've been chatting with on bringing on the pod, and he just put out a post yesterday that was kind of talking about, well, there might even be claims that you can make as a competitor, right? So if someone's using these things and they're doing it illegally and they're taking market share from you, you can sue them essentially. And so I think that that's something that could be very interesting too.
There are so many people that are going to get sued, bro. Like so many. It is crime season right now, but I do think that people are making incredibly short-sighted decisions that will eventually later screw them, which is why for all the stuff that we're doing, I'm trying to think about every way where we can avoid those things, right? And so I think that people should really involve accountants and lawyers more frequently and not strictly rely on AI. But yeah, there's a lot of people who are just like, screw it, let's do it. So we'll see how that all goes.
Yes. Speaking on law and litigation and what's happening with technology, we actually also just had today Meta removed ads for social media addiction litigation. So what happened here was we talked about it on the pod a few weeks back, I think. Someone went to court with Meta and Google, I believe, got a huge payout, or not a massive payout, it was like $5 million for their kids getting addicted to social media. And so what's happened is a bunch of law firms have started to say, oh, well, if you're a victim of this, let us know, it's a typical game, let's get that money.
They swarm.
And so Morgan and Morgan and some of the other big ones were like running ads on Facebook.
For what?
And Facebook was saying, if you are injured by
Got
this
it.
platform, let us know and we'll get a case filed for you. And so Meta's like, well, not here. You're not advertising that. Like, what are you talking about? You're not going to advertise to get people to sue us on our platform.
Makes sense.
Right. So so that's something that happened today that came out, that they started removing those ads. But yeah, just interesting thing going on in the background.
Oh, it's massive. And
Sorry, yeah.
Matthew said cheeky 5 mil. Yeah, nothing to these guys, but does set the precedent for now. There's just going to be a mass amount of people trying to pursue this. Like, even when I made the clip on it, there was those kinds of responses right away, being like, this is nothing. Like, how do I get some of this money? Who gets this money? Right? It happened right away. So there's going to be a lot of that, I'm sure. And that will probably have a trickle down effect into how AI is used. And even as someone who makes their living purely through social media, I saw what it did to people. And to be honest, like, although it made my living and gave me unlimited opportunities, it was for most people in society probably a net negative in the current standpoint. I think if rules are changed and the incentive structures are altered, it could be a massive net positive. But the people making these decisions are just incredibly ignorant.
Mhm.
That's the scariest part here, right? It's also why we have, like, so many of these rules need to be rewritten. It's because the people writing these rules, like, you couldn't possibly write a good rule because you're so out of touch. And there's so many variables that aren't considered.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's crazy the scale of the problems. That's for sure.
They are huge, but they're very complex, but they're only complex because we're going through the lens of like maximizing profits. These would all be pretty simple to solve if you weren't doing that. And I understand, like, the infrastructure is set in place where these people who run these platforms, they are publicly traded. They have so many employees and so many shareholders. But if there were like different platforms where you could do something differently, maybe the experience wouldn't be as addictive and people wouldn't spend their time there. But if they would, you could solve a lot of these problems.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thought. It's an interesting thought, man.
What's up? Where's your head going?
I don't know. I'm not able to really think about it on the spot, but I'm just thinking about the incentives of like a public versus a private company. Like, okay, if you have any public company that serves this any public company would pretty much push the entire market in that direction
Mhm.
because of, yes, now you need to serve the shareholders. Now you need to maximize profits, which might lead to things that might be somewhat unethical or whatever, such as getting people addicted to the platform. Well, as soon as they do that, they're taking away market share from the other companies, right? Whether they're public or not. And so that was kind of the thought that was in my head, is like, if any of these companies are public, then technically you're competing against that type of incentive, which is to hook people to the platform.
Yes, you have to. Like people are like, ironically, they're Facebook is now getting sued for doing what they were always trying to do. Like that was the
Right.
business model, right? And so I think that if they're losing this, I think that people need to wake up and realize that just like any sort of other substance, content it can be an addictive substance, maybe even more than like anything else, because there's not like this wow moment. It's very much a numbing thing that robs you of your time and your identity and emotional state, right? And it's not like if you go do alcohol or like drugs, there's like a before and after. This is just becoming a constant thing. Like if someone's an alcoholic and they drink all day, that's like seen as a massive problem. But people who doom scroll all day, it's like no big deal.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it is that addictive. And I would say it's maybe even more harmful in a lot of ways. Obviously, not for your body, but for your mind and your spirit. It totally is, because people are hijacking it 24/7. So I think if you were to build in safeguards in terms of like, because like as someone who's been working in this for a very long time, we talk about it in the background. I'm like, if you had this, you had this, you had this, you had this, a lot of those problems go away because the incentive structures aren't there to reward bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so if you enacted like laws tomorrow where like, hey, you needed the few things that we've discussed, like one I'll give off the top is like a bias detector, right? Like a counterweight. If you had that, like that has to be natively in there. Like one thing that I used to love about Nintendo was when I used to play their games with like the Wii or whatever, it'd be like, you've been playing for a while, like you should probably go outside.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So I think there should have to be things like that. It's like seriously, right? And
So
and
you
also
need to touch grass.
for real. And a lot of it is because a lot of this just comes from a lack of information, right? Because these things that we're now operating with in our normal life are things that are so abnormal and the human mind is not equipped to deal with. Right? So whenever I talk to these people, I know their path to where they came to better than they do. Right? Because I know what they've seen by how they talk. Right? So like they're and the human mind cannot do this unless you do this professionally. You can't conceive that somebody else's experience is like that different from yours based on what you've consumed. Right? So everyone is coming to every point of conversation with like the most absurd amount of confirmation bias, and they don't realize that the confirmation bias came from the incentive structure where people were getting paid to be more and more extreme.
Yeah, I saw something this morning that triggered this thought in me. It was something about like the war or whatever, and someone said something that was very just like, this is what it is, and if you think anything different, then you're being psyoped. And I was just like, "But where did you get that idea from? Like, where did your
That-
perspective come
That's
from?"
everywhere, right? Because what I hate about the internet is that you can't have a nuance-based conversation, because if you confuse people, you lose people, right? And so the lack of friction to access the next piece of content was really the erosion of society. Because if I feel any bit of discomfort, where does all growth come from, Keith?
That discomfort.
Feeling uncomfortable, right? But the second that I feel uncomfortable or this is too much, I scroll to the next thing and I don't have to learn the fucking lesson. That's why most people are bots. They're like incredibly well-trained bots, where like they just echo and parrot the exact same thing they've heard 101 times. And everything for a lot of people online is like, they have a hammer, so everything is a nail, right? That's like the only solution. Everything is this one track thinking of like, this is the problem. I even see it with my own personal friends, dude. Like I know when someone watches a right-wing show and they only watch that shit, they always have the same perspective on everything. And I'm like, you watch this shit because you consider yourself a free thinker, but yet you come with a prepackaged opinion to every problem. I'm just like, this is so ironic. But if you don't step back and assess the situation, you don't even realize it's happening.
Fascinating, man. The one thing that I guess creating has definitely helped me to see it more, because I don't know, like I'm also just actively looking for ideas and things. And so I'll notice when I create something and I'm like, okay, well, this is influenced by this. Or I'll
Always.
start to realize, like, linking back, like, okay, this was the things that kind of incentivized or that played a role in me thinking about these things in this way. But yeah.
Groupthink is very powerful, right? Typically, these people that watch these shows, like on either side, anything extreme, they typically only have those conversations in the spaces where they feel it's safe to do so because they know people see it the same way they do.
Mm-hmm.
So then it gets further confirmation where it's not just online anymore, it's also coming to the in real life. Because people don't want to have the hard conversations because the social cost of debate is just so absurdly high now, which is so destructive to society. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And it's also done deliberately. If they overwhelm you where you can't have an opinion, otherwise you're going to be labeled some sort of something bad, you can't really talk.
Yeah, the obvious analogy is what we've been seeing and what people are talking about with the administration in the United States, where the United States just like fired a couple of army generals in the middle of the war, right? And some people were speculating, saying, "Well, obviously they just disagreed." It's like as soon as you take out like the two dissenting opinions that you might have had, right now you have no eyes on the other side of what you could have been thinking about.
Totally.
And so social media is doing that right at scale, and bringing that potentially into the real life as well, where you're not even considering the other side of the argument or of the perspective of what's going on, and at that point you've completely lost the ability to improve upon your ideas or iterate upon them.
So well said, Keith. The thing is that everyone sees themselves as the good guy, and everybody, they did this on purpose, guys. They attach things that you can't argue to a bunch of other things that are kind of stupid, but this thing is so powerful and it means the most to you as an individual. So you have to fight for this because fighting for this is attached to everything else that is dumb. They do this on both sides, right? So basically, like the left is like the more empathetic person who's like, there's a few different psychographic profiles that fall into each of these camps on the political spectrum, and they're attached to like, if you were to go back and sit down and talk to these people, it is so evident that they would naturally be pulled towards their core pillar issue because each of them has like 2 or 3 things that both sides would completely agree with. But it's amidst like for you to agree with this thing that is your most strongest driver, you also have to fight for other shit that's stupid because if you don't, then you're on the other side fighting the thing that you most resonate with. That's such a dangerous precedent. That's why politics is so freaking stupid, right? And now I think it's going to be incredibly popular for people to be like, this two-party system is an absolute joke. It's a complete psyop. Like, I found this crazy, dude. When I talk to my American friends, maybe it's a state-by-state thing, but do y'all have to register like which party you're affiliating with at like as a teenager?
I don't know anything about that, to be honest, man. I'm not super involved, so I
'Cause
really don't actually
my
know.
friends in Florida said that at like in high school, they had to basically pick like, are you this or are you that, basically?
No, that's crazy. I don't know about
If anyone's in chat from Florida, let me know.
that. No, I mean, a lot of Americans aren't even necessarily registered to vote. I think that when you register to vote, you might register as a Republican or a Democrat. I actually, yeah, I'm not. I don't even think that that's true either. I know that when you're running, you have to choose, right? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know actually.
Yeah. I don't know shit. I'm not from there. That's what people have told me. And they had a lot of points around the story where at least it was a thing at their school. And I thought that was absolutely crazy because I think back to how impressionable young people are and like the peer pressure there is just absolutely absurd.
I mean, there was a time in school, I feel like when I was in like elementary school, where I think like you kind of, well, it was just, just classroom that I was in. Um, there was definitely like some sort of a thing where you needed to like pick which president you wanted to win.
Got it.
And this was like, I think it was John Kerry and somebody else, which I'm thinking back to myself. I'm like, dude, I was in second grade. Like,
That's what I'm saying, dude. That's crazy.
what the heck?
That's such an unfair thing because then you're associating with so many things that aren't related. So no, Ben, I didn't. I lived in Florida post 18, 21-year-old, and that was 20 years ago. Sounds about right because Florida. Yeah.
I mean,
so-
Florida's definitely changing a lot of stuff too. Like they're very actively changing a lot of stuff.
Totally. Yeah, it does seem like that. Like I heard that they were talking about getting rid of property tax.
Yes, yeah, that's
Which-
one of the things.
Bro, property tax is crazy. Like what? Like I love how like we get so psyoped into these things where it's like, oh, I gotta pay this. It's like that's an absurd concept.
The thing that's funny, so this came up to me yesterday because, and I was thinking that like, would I have to explain this to Ben? So in America, you have 3 types of police forces, essentially. You have your state police, you have your county police, and then you have your city police.
Mm.
And so when you pay property taxes, you're paying, I'm pretty sure, your county. I'm pretty sure. And so with that being the case, like I was just thinking back to because it was a sheriff that passed me in the parking lot. And I was like, dude, like, what is a sheriff? Like, what is that exactly? Because like it's kind of a weird thing that like these guys kind of like they're like the big bad guys, and like you don't want to mess with the sheriff, and they're the ones who control the county. And I'm like, dude, like honestly, that's like the enforcers of the county. Like they're like the gang of the county, bro. Like they collect revenue for the county. And
That's wild to think about.
and it's like it's crazy to think about that stuff like that, man. Because I know we had a conversation where you're like, how crazy is it that you just put on a badge and you get all these powers? Because I was thinking about, I'm like, there's all these different police forces. So like, what determines which one of them has like what power exactly? Do they all have the same power as police people, or like how does that work exactly?
Also, as the crazy thing about we're talking about incentive structures is as the economic problem gets more and more severe, the incentive for cops to be corrupt just keeps climbing because they can't afford the life that they need, especially with the risk they're taking on. Like there was this massive story in Canada where these cops were like working directly with organized crime, like directly. And that happens all the time.
It does. I mean, bro, the thing that's crazy is like this was actually playing in my head over the past couple of weeks because I'm like going Mad Max in my head about the war. And I'm like thinking about like what would happen if like things were like actually that bad.
Mm.
And the thing that came to my head is like, well, the police would low-key run because they would have all the tools and the like the muscle power to run the streets. You know what I'm saying? Like they would be able to control all traffic, all goods and service. Like they would run stuff.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thought.
So BAPN says, y'all funny, LOL, they execute warrants. I think they're referring to like our
Oh,
police discussion.
the
And
sheriff,
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
I think, yeah.
Cool.
Or I
Yeah,
guess
no.
police in general, yeah.
But it is wild. And it's such a complex problem. Like I have a buddy's brother who has become a cop and it totally changed him, what he's been exposed to and all that stuff too. So to think about how like little these people get paid to do the most messed up job like in the world.
Facts though. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Unless you're like a high-ranking cop, man, you're
not making that much money and you're seeing crazy shit that you can't unsee. Right? Like other stuff, other jobs, like you can transition careers and like you wasted time maybe, right? For this stuff, they're seeing life-altering things all the time.
facts.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what other news you got for me?
I got some stuff, but that's just it's just such an interesting thing, man. Like the people that are drawn to that as well. Because it's like, I remember I was in Miami. This was wild. I was in Miami and I was in the barbershop, and this cop was in there like waving his gun around, like acting out like scenarios and like all kind of crazy stuff. And I'm like, yo, this man is wild as hell. Like, I need to step out of here. Like, I want to have nothing to do with this conversation. And he was like telling stories of like being out in the streets and like having to deal with people and like basically acting like it was such a weird thing. But I know that this has got to be a part of the culture, especially in Miami, unfortunately. Like they're very the cops are great out there. Don't get me wrong. Like they keep the streets safe, but they're so much like a gang. It's crazy, bro.
How so?
And I'm sure it's like this everywhere if we really think in the United States, I'm saying. Just like as an example, Yadded. All of them, all the way tatted up and down. You know what I mean? And it's just like you can just tell that there's like that movie level of like camaraderie for whatever goes down. Like, I got you, bro. So anyways, but yeah, that was just such an interesting moment. And this guy was talking about how it was two different cops, I think, in there. And like one of the guys was like, I was a cop in Memphis in my first day. I got shot at and I was like, I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm not doing this, bro.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting to hear.
There's less guns here, so I guess like that is a little bit less of a risk in Canada. But one thing that I saw with the police that was crazy was when I was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, in like 2021, I think it was. They had these zones in which they had different curfew times, and it would be enforced by like the Mexican military. So like when it hit midnight, they would drive like this like armored vehicle with like a turret on top, with a manned turret, dude.
That's crazy,
bro. And it was like playing audio that was pre-recorded. It sounded like The Purge kind of thing. Like, go home, it is curfew, or whatever it was. I'm screwing up the specifics, but it was just like, yo, that's absurd. These dudes are just walking around with like full-on assault rifles and
That's
a
crazy.
turret.
Yeah, that's crazy. Miami has not gone to that extent just yet. But they did a whole thing where they shut down, they kind of like shut down South Beach and Miami Beach for spring break. Did you ever see that thing where they like put out an ad? This was like 2 or 3 years ago. They put out an ad on social media and were like, do not come to Miami for spring
Yes,
break.
I do recall seeing that.
Because they started to take a very similar type of thing. They implemented curfews. There's no armored truck, to be fair. No armored truck in Miami yet, but they're definitely going to be someone to do that at some point. And it was just such an interesting thing, man, to watch how they did that. And like, anyways, but yeah, no, that's a crazy experience to see that in Mexico with the military coming through with an arm.
It was wild. It was because
a turret.
it was because of the virus stuff, right? And they had
Mm,
different zones to try to suppress the numbers, I guess.
mm.
And it actually changed while I was there. So like the curfew was late, and then they got moved into the higher risk tier based on the numbers, I guess. And then that's when they started to enforce these things. And it was just so funny because when we were out late, like a lot of people had been drinking, and so to like hear people talk about like the guns everywhere was also a
Yeah.
pretty insane thing.
That's crazy, man. All right, folks. Having some fun here today. Morgan Stanley Spot Bitcoin ETF is officially trading on the New York Stock Exchange.
Mm.
So Morgan Stanley is finally live. They were the first large bank to launch an ETF for Bitcoin.
That's big.
Yeah.
It's kind of anti-Bitcoin's core thesis, but
Jeff Booth would not love that.
he would not. You'll lose your Bitcoin if you do that, according to Jeff.
Speaking of Bitcoin and crypto, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, Iran eyes crypto toll for oil tanker transits through Strait of Hormuz, according to the Financial Times. So Iran plans to collect cryptocurrency and other digital payments as transit fees from fully loaded oil tankers passing through the Strait of Hormuz, says the report. So I've seen a lot of back and forth on this. Some people are saying they only said Bitcoin. Some people are saying they said Bitcoin and any other cryptocurrency or other cryptocurrencies as well. And so people are freaking out about that. There's like clips of Jim Rickards saying, oh, maybe Ripple or something in there and stuff like that. So people have been taking this to an absolute extreme, which I don't blame them because there's something very significant here. What I will point out is that the reason that this is super important is because the whole point of like the whole thing about Iran, okay, so Iran has their plan of what they would like to have for the ceasefire. A big part of this is that the US lifts all sanctions on Iran, right? And so there's a couple of things that Iran, I think, has as a way for them to try to maintain power over the strait or of the situation in general. One of the things is having control of the strait, right? There's no way for the US for Iran to get any sort of a guarantee that the US won't attack them unless they have some sort of control over the strait. Is kind of how I look at it. If you don't have control of the strait, then they can attack you whenever. This was the thing that they had the whole time. So that's one major thing. The other thing is this situation about the sanctions. So the US has kept Iran down for a long time by implementing sanctions, meaning that they can't really do a whole lot of transactions around the world. The US is basically barring them from being able to use the US dollar system in the same way that anyone else would be able to freely on the market. And so because of that, right, Iran is saying, well, believe that we would like to have control over, we would like to participate in the global economy. And so what easier way to make sure that they have access to financial tools and assets that exist outside of anything that the US could ever sanction than by having Bitcoin, right? That would allow them to transact without anyone being able to get in between what it is that they want to do with their money. So
No, 100%. That's super important, and I think it's tied into the whole story and was from the very beginning. But that's super interesting. Anything else on that front that you want to go over?
What I want to put out there for prediction's sake, the reason I think that's so fascinating is because Bitcoin is uncensorable, right? And if it is, then what if this is the way that you actually, once again here, start to have a reason why you must implement something that sits on top of Bitcoin, something that actually prevents people from, you basically would need to create a system around Bitcoin that says, well, Bitcoin inside of this system can be used, but in this situation, we can still sanction it. We still don't want you to be able to use this thing here. And if that were an internet level protocol, then that would stop them from being able to use it that way. And this is something that we've seen being developed by the Bank for International Settlements as an example. It is the central bank of central banks partnering up with the telecommunications companies. And so eventually what you could end up seeing is a system where the internet is the thing that controls whether or not you're able to move the Bitcoin in the way that you'd like to be able to.
Mm.
And so scary, sad, but what a
Could be a thing.
what a trigger to create something or launch something like that than Iran trying to use Bitcoin to get around US sanctions.
Totally. And there's a few stories that build off of that. The first of which is the quantum threat, which we discussed, and basically how they're going to use the Satoshi wallet in terms of like the allocation that's already in there, and how they're going to move the protocol forward to deal with that thing, because that's one of the biggest quantum threats, that if someone were to get into the Satoshi wallet, then that totally screws up like the whole dynamics of the network, which is a big thing. And then also Stormy said, whoops, I lost it here. Did anyone else read the New York Times investigative report on who they think Satoshi Nakamoto is? Did you read that, Keith?
That was going to be something, that we can talk about for sure.
Cool. Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Charles made a video on it as well, and who they say that they think it is who Charles predicted it was 4 years ago on the Lex Friedman podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't see that.
Yeah, because
cool.
Yeah, super cool. And I also we definitely want to get Charles back on. I reached out to his team, but haven't heard back yet. But yeah, so that's worth watching too. Thank you so much. It is the fact that he talked about that too. And then how realistic is the quantum threat? Says the Rebel. I'm not qualified to talk on that because I have no freaking clue. I don't think there are many people in the world that really are. They've started this big movement from Anthropic, where they're trying to get together to secure the largest infrastructure from software. And they're all trying to work together to basically make it less hackable before they release this new model of theirs, apparently. And Charles made a video about that as well. But Charles also had a really good point on this subject, where he's like, if anything overpasses Bitcoin, then Bitcoin is absolutely screwed. Have you thought about through that thought exercise?
Not so much, no. I mean, all the XRP people see a flippening occurring. That's like their whole thing.
Yeah, no, 100%. It could happen.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I saw some of that clip that you were talking about with Charles saying that. I mean, I think the big thing is just, if Bitcoin, right, is not the #1 digital asset, then it just, I don't think it has to go away fully. I think it could still, we've talked about this before, it could still be like the unit of account of the internet. I do think that. I think that could be the real thing. Like, because it's still it's still measuring all of the inflation of the US dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if that's what it's doing to some degree, then you can still use that as a measure against these other technologies that were somehow superior to it in terms of the value of the entire protocol, be the market cap. So you could still price your XRP in BTC.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
true. That may be ultimately what it becomes. But yeah, it's definitely. It seems like we're getting closer to that point where all of these things that we've been projecting into the future, we'll probably start to get some answers. There's also the that tweet that came out. You probably have it in the meme section or the news section with the GTA thing that you sent me.
Actually, I don't even know if I put it in there, man. Yeah, that's a good piece to riff on. Before we do that, let's talk about something that came up, I think, yesterday. Robert F. Kennedy, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah, his podcast
is launching a podcast coming soon from Secretary Kennedy. Let's hear him talk about it real quick.
Should trust the system. For decades now, Americans have been told that we should trust the system, but our children are sicker, chronic disease is exploding, and the answers that we've been given aren't working. Many of us have come to the conclusion that government actually lies to us. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary. This podcast is about telling the truth, especially when it's uncomfortable.
So I thought this was kind of funny. The guy said, "The government lies to us," podcast from the government.
That's it, man. Is that a lot of the times this happens in the corporate world. This definitely happens in the political world, where someone will brand themselves as like the anti-establishment, and then it just gets absorbed by the establishment. Like that happens with health products all the time. Like these massive conglomerates of direct to consumer, or like what am I thinking? Like food-based product, let's say, or even like shampoos and stuff like that. These massive conglomerates will buy up the indie brand that was all about health and wellness, and then they slowly over time change the formula. So that happens all the time.
Yeah, people have definitely been coming at him in particular as well as
All of that.
saying like he's totally compromised, which is fascinating to think. Um,
Well, I think the system just, if you're part of it, I think it necessitates being compromised. Like I think that's the cost of admission from an
the,
outsider's perspective.
the other thing that I heard someone say the other day was, I think it was from Professor Zhang, or I mean, Zhang Shuixin.
Nice job,
He's,
dude.
he said, basically, all of the different people that are in Trump's administration are basically just press secretary. Like, take their thing and replace it with press secretary. And I thought it was a super interesting thought because it's like that is exactly what they've all done. Like Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, like only thing that he's ever doing, not only thing, but the thing that he's always doing consistently is making sure that Trump is seen as a good person. And I just don't like that at all, man. I hate that so much. Like, how did we get here? How did we get to where that's the outcome of all of this? Is just like you can't say anything bad about someone who might be making a bad decision. It doesn't have to be that way. Like you can still support someone and them be making a bad decision. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Well, we are living like Plato's allegory of the cave has really become a mainstream thing through our devices, right? So that is like the whole thing, because if emotion creates motion and all of these people are making real life decisions based on emotions, this thing is like the ultimate emotion creator,
Mhm.
right? So that is basically all of the game. It's
Yeah.
managing perception, right? And also being incredibly deliberate and intentional. And if you have enough money and you understand how these social platforms function, you can manufacture realities all the time. We're living in one. That's the craziest part. That's why you should question everything. And if something makes you really pissed off, Chase Hughes' line, he always says, say maybe, right? When you
Mm.
when you consume something, say maybe. You know what I mean? Because a lot of it is horseshit.
Facts, man. Next piece that I had was about that Anthropic scenario. So there was a couple of things. One of the things was that apparently they like announced a model that was so powerful that they won't release it to the public out of fear over the damage it will cause. It's called the Claude Mythos. It was a preview that found thousands of zero-day exploits in every major operating system and web browser. The numbers are hard to believe. $50 to find a 27-year-old bug in OpenBSD, one of the most security-hardened operating systems ever built. Under $1,000 to find and build a fully working remote code execution exploit in free BSD that grants unauthenticated root access from anywhere on the internet, and so on and so forth. These are the kind of findings that previously required elite security researchers working for weeks. Anthropic engineers with no formal security training asked Mythos to find exploits overnight. They woke up to working code the next morning. So what happened basically after that was Anthropic announced this thing called Glasswing, Project Glasswing, which Ben, you were just talking about. And this is an urgent initiative to help secure the world's most critical infrastructure, powered by the newest frontier model, Claude Mythos Preview, which can find software vulnerabilities better than all but the most skilled humans. And so essentially, this is a coalition of a bunch of very large companies in the space that are coming together to try and work on these issues. So you've got Amazon, Apple, Broadcom, Cisco, CrowdStrike, Google, JP Morgan, Linux, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Palo Alto in this particular piece here. So anyways, huge coalition coming together trying to secure critical software for the AI era.
And Charles was saying that they should do something similar within the crypto specific industry.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so he's trying to band the troops together to try to do something similar. I don't know how his responses were, but one thing that's also so funny about crypto in general, and I guess it's not the same as these things, where like a lot of people who like let's say the Charles example, where they hate Cardano because they hate Charles. It's like Charles really isn't. He's not like Sam Altman, where he's like the sole decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very different situation. Like it's a protocol of technology stacked upon each other, where the leader doesn't have that like obviously he has sway socially, especially, but it's so different than a company. And I think a lot of people, even in crypto, they don't fully grasp that. I think so much of this stuff is just confusion.
You've got at this point, I hate to put it this way, but a lot of people that are participating that have no idea what they're actually participating in.
Almost everyone, Keith. And we're all like, there's people who know way more than we do. I'm not saying I'm
Right.
this all-knowing being whatsoever, but I've asked a lot more questions than I think most people have. And I also don't assume that I understand things when I consume it. Right? Like a lot of people, they get fed one thing that aligns with their version of reality that was curated for them, and then they're like, boom, I understand it. And they start yelling at people who are exploring different things. Or like we get shit on all the time from these people who are like so fucking ignorant. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
you're so stupid, bro. I would love to talk to you face to face because you would look like an idiot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that because I try to be nice. But like, you don't know what you're talking about. Why are you screaming it?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's so fascinating where all of this has continued to evolve. Because once again, at the beginning, which I wasn't there, but it was only like these like super well thinking cryptographer types of people, right? And now it's come all the way back around to where some people want to know about that stuff or want to know this ethos of that and want to get the whole point of this whole thing.
Why don't we play the Cypherpunk Manifesto that Jeff told us to watch?
Yes. I mean, it's definitely not super short.
It's not that long. I think I found a video of it that was only like a few minutes. Let me try to find it.
Yeah, it's not that long. You're right.
The Cyberpunk Manifesto. Here's one. Hopefully this voice isn't super cringe, but I'll send it to you.
Cool.
And then we can play it at like 1.25 for all of our brain rotted peeps out there, myself included.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
So let's see this one. And then I got a backup one for you too, if that one's weird.
Let's give it a shot.
Boom, sent you two. So we'll try the first one. It has more views, so hopefully that's...
A Cypherpunk's Manifesto, written by Eric Hughes on March 9th, 1993. Privacy is necessary for an open society in the electronic age. Privacy is not secrecy. A private matter is something one doesn't want the whole world to know, but a secret matter is something one doesn't want anybody to know. Privacy is the power to selectively reveal oneself to the world. If two parties have some sort of dealings, then each has a memory of their interaction. Each party can speak about their own memory of this. How could anyone prevent it? One could pass laws against it, but the freedom of speech, even more than privacy, is fundamental to an open society. We seek not to restrict any speech at all. If many parties speak together in the same forum, each can speak to all the others and aggregate together knowledge about individuals and other parties. The power of electronic communication has enabled such groupspeak, and it will not go away merely because we might want it to. Since we desire privacy, we must ensure that each party to a transaction have knowledge only of that which is directly necessary for that transaction. Since any information can be spoken of, we must ensure that we reveal as little as possible.
Background music's crazy.
Personal identity is not salient. When I purchase a magazine at a store and hand cash to the clerk, there is no need to know who I am. When I ask my electronic mail provider to send and receive messages, my provider need not know to who I am speaking, or what I am saying, or what others are saying to me. My provider only need know how to get the message there and how much I owe them in fees. When my identity is revealed by the underlying mechanism of the transaction, I have no privacy. I cannot here selectively reveal myself. I must always reveal myself. Therefore, privacy in an open society requires anonymous transaction systems. Until now, cash has been the primary such system. An anonymous transaction system is not a secret transaction system. An anonymous system empowers individuals to reveal their identity when desired and only when desired. This is the essence of privacy. Privacy in an open society also requires cryptography. If I say something, I want it heard only by those for whom I intended. The
You want
content
to call it there?
is available to the world.
Cool.
And then, yeah, well, I recommend going to read that full thing. But basically, Jeff had mentioned that. I've since read it. And so I recommend reading it. It's not that long of a read. Like that whole video was like 6 minutes. I would have watched the whole thing if the background music wasn't absolutely absurd. But anything on that, Keith?
No. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, this is kind of like the original piece of what this stuff really was all about back in the day. And so this is from 1993 as well. right?
It was written
Uh,
then, yeah.
yeah. So I would say it was interesting hearing some of the opening lines. It also very much reminded me of the conversation that we've had with Fami over at Midnight.
Yes, that's exactly where my head went too. And I think that sentiment is just so in the shitters right now with crypto that no one's excited about anything. But I do think that if we see some positive movement or even negative things happening, that may usher in some awareness for what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Moving forward, we had some talk about GTA. You mentioned it a little bit earlier.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. Huge, massive game from Rockstar. And this guy named Banks, who is a
FaZe. So he was part of the FaZe clan that was massive earlier on in the social media era. They were, I believe their primary thing was gaming. They also all lived together in one content house. They kind of were one of the first people to do that in a serious way. They built FaZe into something very big. I believe they IPO'd it. Things did not go well. I believe he bought it back, and I think now it's worth a lot less. But either way, he's very in internet culture, crypto culture. These guys were very big in NFTs as well.
100%.
For some context.
So let's hear what he was saying about GTA.
Grand Theft Auto, how much money have they spent on it? It's like
crazy money,
like hundreds of millions, if not billions, on the game they spent, right? Over the course of the last decade. They've been building this game for a decade. Would it surprise you guys for Grand Theft Auto to release and launch their own marketplace where you can buy goods, shop, trade these items amongst each other? Would that surprise you at all?
And you like live
it's
in the
probably
world?
how it's going to work, right? Would it surprise you if you could physically buy a house in Grand Theft Auto with money? You take money, V-Bucks,
and it could go up in
house.
value.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's tradable.
Yeah.
CSGO, why CSGO skins have real world value, why there are skins in CSGO that are worth quite literally millions of dollars. That's what the market says that they're worth, is because I can own it and trade it to you freely.
Mm-hmm.
So that establishes a market, and it's all about demand versus the supply, right? You have a rich prince in India who plays CSGO every day. Money's nothing to him. He'll go buy the rarest skin in the game for $1 million like it's nothing, and we'll run around with it. And he's that guy, right?
For the flex, yeah.
It's just
I
like
think
how
that's-
everybody lives in the real world. The only difference is way more people see it.
Yeah.
You're wearing a Tiffany Paddock, maybe 10 people really see it that day.
Yeah.
It's a whatever.
Oh, that's such a good
$4
point.
million watch.
Yeah.
You're running around in a video game with the rarest skin. You're having 100,000 profile visits a day. You're talking about flex culture.
That's
I'm
crazy.
that guy. Come on, man. Like it's
I said stuff like this a while ago, and I got clowned on so hard.
Yeah, on TikTok, somebody was coming at you.
Yeah, 100%. But I think that's just the reality of the situation. Like stuff like that will happen. Of course, a lot of people have bad taste in their mouths for both the Nelk Boys and him for their affiliation to like NFTs, meme coins, etc. But I think for how long they've been working on this game, I'm sure it's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen before. And so I also think it will do a lot for the NFT ecosystem, because like, let's say people are hanging out in their houses that they own and whatnot, like digital art. If you like, let's say GTA were to connect with these blockchains, like let's say OpenSea or whatever, and you have to prove that you own something, and the only way you could put that artwork in your home would be by proving ownership, right? Through an NFT. And so I think that will be part of the equation. I think there'll be full-on in-game ecosystems where literally people are making full-time livings. Like I said that a while ago, but yeah.
Yeah, and I was thinking to myself as I was watching that, like my skeptic brain was like, okay, but how, like, do you really need blockchain to do this? Like, couldn't they just do it anyways and just have a marketplace that's fully in US dollars? But then I was like, well, but that wouldn't change anything.
Mm-hmm.
You already kind of have that, like with like the rewards and points and systems or whatever.
Yeah.
And so to make it real money, right, you would want to use a blockchain because now you can actually make it's real money at that point. It exists outside of that ecosystem.
It aligns the incentive structures for so many people to amplify the spreading mechanism, right? Because now we talk about like one of the biggest things that Keith and I go back and forth on all the time is that every project we do, every person that we work with, we think about how do we align our incentive structures to get to the desired outcome. In a game like this, especially like when there's going to be so much noise out there for things that are fighting after your attention, I think something like this will like stand head and shoulders above everything else. And that whole experience that they can give will be transformative in terms of how people see things like this. So yeah, I think it's super important that it's like that, because then this is what I always thought would be the breakthrough moment for a lot of people, or why they get blockchain, why they get NFTs, all these different things. This would be it, because this is a cultural moment. The last time this happened, I was graduating high school, and there was no one who didn't play that game who was like a dude. Like I'm sure there's a lot of girls that never played, but like every guy that I knew at least tried that thing, right? So then, especially if a point in time when so many people are not making very much money, and then you could give them an opportunity to make some money through a freaking video game, that changes the entire equation.
Most definitely, man.
So yeah, I think that will happen.
I could see it, and 100% this would be the way for people to start to get it. It's just too perfectly embedded into society that people play these games. There's transactions taking place, but those aren't real, right?
Yes. And there's so many converging forces where people are angry about the microtransactions. And it's not necessarily that they're just mad about the microtransactions. They're mad about the incredibly predatory nature of those microtransactions.
How does
So when
that
you
look?
totally. So basically these gaming has been bastardized. Like gaming sucks ass now, and gamers talk about this all the time. That's why there's so many people doing things illegally, because people got so greedy. Like these game manufacturers have been so absurdly greedy, and so they constantly basically refresh and take your money again every time they release a new game, and it all gets like wiped to zero because the people aren't there. So using the things you paid for no longer really matters, and so they don't actually have like tradable utility. So you spend all this money, and then you got to do it again next year for a lot of games. So in this case, like this also flips that on their head. And GTA has always won because they obsessed over quality. And so if they understand that like these are actually the pain points, socially people won't look at blockchain. Like, here's what I'll say. GTA is the only brand with enough brand equity to have the balls to do this.
Right. Yeah, true.
So because people on the outside who are ignorant are like, this would ruin the game. It's like, no, this would make the game what they always wanted it to be.
Goodness. Oh my goodness. It would be crazy.
Changes the entire equation. And I still don't think that people can grasp this stuff, because the concept of digital scarcity is still something very difficult for people to grasp. And where do you better exemplify that than the game that's going to be getting clipped millions or billions of times, right? So then, like, or seen clips of it will be seen billions of times. Then everyone gets the insider culture. Like I remember when I played Halo 3, if you were in a lobby and this guy had like this certain mask, you knew that guy was like cracked at the game. He was really good, right? There was social currency there. On the mic, we'd be like, oh my God, you have I can't even remember the name of the helmet, but it was like, whoa, we all got that, right? Everyone's going to get that for these big stories in this game because it will cross niches. Or like GTA clips touch so many more people, right? So the culture that will be bred in this game, it's not like other games, right? Like let's say FIFA, that you only hit soccer fans and FIFA fans. GTA hits everybody. Every barrel of oil will be on VeChain. Did you look much into VeChain, Keith?
I did. I was a huge VeChain person back in 2018.
I was too. Matthew says, yo, someone screen cap Keith's face right there, bro. Actually, perfect meme for when you listening to someone yapping BS. Matthew, I'm telling you, it's not BS, brother. You'll see. You'll see.
Nah. I hope my face doesn't look like that. But yeah, I mean, well, Matthew, because it's always so distant for me to hear about the gaming stuff, because I just have I used to play games, don't get me wrong, but I'm just so far connected from the culture of it all. But I do see how, I mean, 100% this is I can see it just becoming real, because that was my whole thing. I'm like, why am I playing this game? It's not doing anything for me. You know what I'm saying? So
Totally.
imagine that changes.
Also, people don't realize that socially, the economics of it all is already there, like psychologically, sorry, right? Where people are like, oh, people wouldn't spend absurd amounts of money on this game. It's like they're already doing it, and they get them back. Right. So like right now, for a lot of these people that play these games where there is microtransactions, it's very much the thing that at the end of the year, when they're paying their taxes or doing whatever, they're like, holy shit, I spent that much money on this thing and got nothing for it. Now they'll actually have an asset that they can sell at any given point. They'll spend more money because the risk isn't associated. It's not a throwaway. It's an investment.
Exactly. And just culturally, like that makes leaves so much room for VR, or excuse me, AR.
Bro, that'll be the thing.
How much of this comes into the real world at that point too? You know what I mean?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And then also, if you attach the cultural significance to what people currently see as a scam, right? Like let's say meme coin culture, NFTs, whatever, and now it gets attached to this, and then that's the I get it moment. All of the hate makes those things cooler. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like the story there now becomes like so much larger. Like,
Mhm.
could you imagine? Like, yo, for years everyone was saying this was so stupid. I knew this was coming, and it happened. This like it's a totally different story.
Yeah, I mean, you start creating like you're gonna have like Mr. Beasts of GTA. You're gonna have like crazy things like that.
Totally. So Matthew, here's here. Yep, it's like the virtual example of what the Pokemon card market kind of did, in my opinion. 1000%. Right? So Keith, I'm always early on this shit because I pay attention, I study shit. I was telling my girlfriend in high school that the Pokemon market would be what it is today when I was in high school. Because I
Wow.
went to this market and I spent like, I had like $500 to my name. I spent all of it on like first edition games that were still in the box. I got like 2 or 3 at the time. And she's like, I know she went home thinking like, this guy's the biggest idiot I've ever met. And that's probably why we broke up. But later, now the same things that I had bought, unfortunately, I sold them too early because I was too poor. But those things that I spent $90 on each or whatever they were are now worth thousands, Keith.
Wow.
Thousands of
That's
dollars.
crazy, man.
Yes.
That's
And
crazy.
I knew that would happen because the social thing of like, why do people want art? It's not because they want the art. Like, listen to whatever bullshit you want. It's because they want the people who want that art to know that they have it.
Right.
That's it, dude.
Yeah. So that was the other thing that was coming to my head around the GTA thing. It's just like wearables, like 100% people having something that signifies like, yeah, I'm like lit on GTA. Like whether it's a chain or something stupid. I remember people were like doing the hardware wallets as a chain. That was absolutely ignorant. But
No, there are levels to this shit, right? Like craziness for sure.
But something like that for sure, dude. Maybe it would just be something that's built into your smartwatch and it's
Yes.
just like a skin or on your background on your phone.
They have enough money and influence where they can create a normalized behavior,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you attach it to income.
Mhm.
Everything is dumb until it makes enough people money. Then it's the coolest thing ever, right? Like that happens all the time. Like how many things, like social media, case in point,
Yeah.
right? I used to get clowned on for making videos. Brandon and I talked about this. Now everybody wants to be a creator.
Yeah.
Before it made enough people money, or they thought they could do it, it was dumb. It was lame. You're a loser. Why are you doing this? Now, holy fuck, I should have been making videos the whole time, right? I think that'll be a lot of that will happen.
100%, man. Next piece that I had here was on North Carolina in the United States. Apparently, they said that they're not hiding. Excuse me. They're putting drones in the sky. All right. So this is a graphic of them clocking people's speeds from the highway. I don't think this is exactly what's happening.
Is that real?
I don't think so. No. But the concept is okay. Wait, hold on. Let's see. They have a campaign saying speed a little, lose a lot, and it involves increased patrols and checkpoints to address speeding, not drones. Right. So this is not what that is, but they are still using drones as a way to assist with their policing. So North Carolina Police Department defends the use of drones amid privacy concerns. This came out a week ago.
Bro.
And so people were basically saying they're complaining and they're saying these drones are like doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing. Like they're hanging out in like my yard and there's no reason for that. So what's going on here? And so the police department was responding. They're like, look, we're human beings. There are going to be things that we do that disappoint you from time to time. That's just the way it is. There may be a bad actor that will do something like that. If you think there's something like that going on, just call us because we have all the data, they said. They can't hide a flight. They can't say that it's never happened. We'll be able to take a look and someone's going to have to answer for it if that's what's going on. But yeah, people really are not having it at all.
I hate this.
Person said the idea that someone is flying around this drone and they're constantly looking at me, I shouldn't be watched while I'm on my way to somewhere. So
yeah, someone said Keith, Matthew said Keith, you had that drone over you the other day in the park.
Yeah, I called it out because I was like, what the heck is going on? And I left it in the video.
I hate that. That's just
yeah.
all these things are just them moving the goalposts. And I also think that's like a symptom of desperation. And like, I do think that there is a point where, yes, they have this system of control, but a lot of it is psychological. And I do think you can get to extreme where eventually people start to do things that they thought no one would do. So yeah, that's messed up. I've said before publicly that I think that, of course, you need to enforce like speeding restrictions, but having something like that is crazy. Like I'm going to get a ticket now when I'm going I guess I'm Canadian, so kilometers, but like what's your speed limit on the highway? 70?
Yeah, like 70.
So like, let's say I'm going 90. Now I'm going to get a ticket on an empty highway because there's a drone there. Like that's horse shit.
Oh, if you're going 90, bro, you're getting super mega ticketed.
Really? I guess I don't know the conversion very well because like here,
Oh, you're saying
90 miles.
If you're going 90 and a 70, yeah, you're getting pulled over and ticketed and.
But on an empty highway, like maybe that's too extreme. But people here on the highway go like 120 all the time.
If
you're
it's
going 100.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're trying to. Okay, I see what you're saying. So if you're going 25 over in the United States,
yeah,
you can be arrested for that.
Okay, so let's say 10 over, then you'll probably still get a ticket from this thing.
That's your point. I think that's your point. If you're going like 10 over, then like, bro, what the heck?
Like the Autobahn, it should be like that, man. If no one's there, I should be able to cook.
Americans can't handle that level of
fair.
Oh man. But yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking when I saw that thing in the air. Because once again, that's not a real graphic. Like that's someone went there and did that because like that's what they're picturing, and I think that's a very powerful image. Because like imagine that, right?
Bro, at that point, like we already are there, I guess, but we're literally like animals in a cage at that point.
We might already be like that, like you said, Ben.
Yeah.
Once money has gone so digital, I mean, you guys had to deal with that for real, when the truckers did the whole thing. Like, bro, that's kind of like a moment of like, oof.
You know what the shocking part of that was, really, Keith, is how small of a deal that was for most people. That was the thing where I'm like, oh, like I need to get out of here because I was like, I'm like, yo. We talk about the whole empathy situation where people can't think about like, oh, it didn't happen to you yet, like you said with the war stuff, right? Okay, yeah, you may not disagree with what the government is saying now, but when they keep moving the goalposts, what's your breaking point?
Yeah.
And then they have the same liberty to do what they did to them to you. It's a very dangerous precedent.
Yeah, and that one was crazy, and for it to be so close to home, even it's like, guys, like, whoa, that's
it's
a really big deal.
Bro, it's a very big deal. And I also think another scary part for me was the fact that it wasn't just the immediate people. It was people who tried to support them in doing it.
Totally forgot about that.
That's like
crazy
dictator shit.
That's all the way, bro.
Dude, it's insane. And they're going more and more extreme here. And it's a lot because of like sunk cost, right? So like I said before, people on either side of the political spectrum, they align with one thing and they have a universal truth, right? So like, let's say for a lot of here, the liberal nature of people is because they think they have some like moral superiority, right? Like they care about people more than you. If that's the only benchmark, very easy to manipulate you because I can tie in so many things that should not be attached to this that now you're forced to say yes to this thing because otherwise you're going against the fact that you're here because you're a good person.
100%, man. Yeah, you talked about that sometimes, and I think it's super powerful to think about that. And it's definitely been weaponized.
Because they slide things in, right? And Canada is like notorious for this. They'll come out with some altruistic angle for a dramatic change in the laws. And they'll basically say, like, so like, let's say with the media laws they're trying to change, they'll position it all around, like, let's say, oh, we're trying to save the kids. So that way, if you say no to this law that has so many other things that people have not read, then you want kids to get abused.
Right.
They do that all the time here, man.
Yeah, we talked about some of that on like the Chase Hughes episode that we didn't do a full Chase Hughes episode, but propaganda episode, and how that's one of the things that you can kind of do is like get people to associate with one other idea and then use that against them.
You're good. I made a video about the media laws like 2 or 3 years ago because it directly impacts me as a business owner. Like as these platforms change, it's my entire livelihood. And the amount of people that felt like they were confident to talk about these subjects was absurd because they've been well trained, right? So they had the same talking points, and I was like, how many YouTube channels have you grown? how many things have you done here, right? Like, do you know what you're talking about? Because you certainly sound like you have the confidence that you do, but you're clearly ignorant. So yeah, we're very well trained here.
Fascinating, man. I saw a piece here from the internet. This was good. I'm kind of moving into memes. It's a little bit of a blur. So a Georgia voter had this to say about the war.
It's giving war crime. You can't do that. We don't just annihilate people because we can and, make a grab for the money and the oil. And that's what we've done in Venezuela. And that's what we're doing in Iran.
It's giving. It's good.
It's giving war crime, says this woman who's clearly, into her midlife.
Brain
and
rise hit everywhere.
yeah, basically that's what everyone was saying. They were like, wow, like this is what short form social media has done to
Everyone's brain.
everyone.
Because when you see other people doing things, like social norms get normalized very quickly, like a rapid scale. So yeah, that's not that surprising to see that. But who knows? Like I always am so skeptical of everything I see. Is like, did they make that because they knew that people would then say that and it would get shared a lot? So who knows?
Interesting. Moving forward, we had this blowing up over the internet. This apparently this guy set a warehouse on fire. And not just a warehouse. This is a 1.2 million square foot warehouse in Ontario, California.
Wow. Well, that's terrifying.
And so this is Kimberly Clark, a Kimberly Clark warehouse, one of the larger manufacturers. And this guy said he'll never have to worry about food, housing, or bills ever again. So the whole point, by the way, was he was saying in this video, he's like, you should have paid us more. So he's like basically saying these aren't livable wages. Like, what are we doing? I'm setting this thing on fire. There goes your merchandise, he said in the video. This is where people are at.
If they don't put money in people's pockets fairly soon, there'll be more of that.
Crazy. So that comment was saying, well, we won't have to worry about housing because he'll be in jail. But crazy to think. I mean, especially like if this guy has a family, right? Like, I don't know, but I imagine if you're that upset, it's probably why. You know what I mean? Because you're trying to take care of your family or something, but now this guy's set a warehouse on fire. It's not gonna help you out too much. But yeah, man, just crazy stuff. I actually saw a tweet that was a joke, but it was actually completely disconnected from this. But I was like, well, this is actually exactly what's happening, right? And it's a joke. This guy said, Sean Johnson said, I'm about 2 to 3 failed job applications from joining Hamas. Crazy joke, is obviously that's not like a good joke, right? But to an extent, it once again is encapsulating this idea of
The feeling.
where people are at.
Mhm. Yeah, and also because I think the defeating thing is that like a lot of people who are mad about the situation, they're yelling at the wrong things. But like even if you do get to what I think are the right things, you still feel somewhat powerless in a lot of
Yep.
ways. And so then what else do you do besides like a lot of these things that people are feeling is their only option? And I'm definitely not advocating anything like that. But if you just study like the course of history, like these kinds of things start to happen when people are feeling like this.
Correct, guys. Don't join Hamas.
No.
But or set a warehouse on fire. But yeah, man. So very, very crazy stuff happening there. Another piece that I saw, you see the comment?
I was just saying because someone was like, I'm the Debbie Downer today. Where the hell is Carl? Because normally he plays that role.
That's hilarious, bro. So another random story that I saw was really interesting, actually. A U.S. Army veteran was just charged with leaking classified information to a journalist. So this has actually come up this week or so because there was like a leak that happened about like the Air Force thing that happened where like a pilot was downed and like someone leaked that. And then Trump was like, whoever leaked this, basically he said to the press, if you don't tell me who leaked this information, then I'm going to put you in jail. Which, by the way, so I technically studied some of this stuff in school. Like, that's terrible. To try to, like, a big part of journalism is keeping anonymity of your sources, right? Like in a case like this where someone would get hurt, your responsibility, your job as a journalist is to make sure that no one gets hurt because of what you've published, right? And so if Trump is saying, I'm going to throw you in jail if you don't tell me who leaked this information, then you're really playing around with the freedom of press. Okay. Now, this was actually something totally separate, but in general, this is a conversation that's being had in society right now. It's like, can you attack the press in that way and tell them that you're going to throw them in jail if they don't give you a source? Like, that's really, really, really bad for freedom of speech. So anyways, but this was a different story, and it was very, very interesting. This person, so this is an Army veteran, Courtney Williams, 40, out of North Carolina, is being indicted on charges related to her alleged transmission of classified national defense information to individuals not authorized to receive it, including a journalist. And so I kept reading this because, like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Between 2022 and 2025, Williams repeatedly communicated by phone and text message with a journalist who was seeking information for an article and a book about the unit that she was in. And so the name of this book, by a man named Seth Harp, who we would love to have on the podcast, he said he wrote a book published last year titled The Fort Bragg Cartel, Drug Trafficking and Murder in the Special Forces. And basically in this book as well, it was like he kind of named Williams in the book, and there were some text messages that came out as the book was about to come out where Williams was like, I don't know, like this might be kind of bad, like this is classified information to some degree, and I don't know what this is going to mean for me. And Seth Harp has actually come out and like defended Williams and said that, you know, this is something that they've done a good deed. And so a courageous whistleblower who exposed rampant gender discrimination and sexual harassment in the U.S. Army's Delta Force. And so anyways, so I thought it was super interesting, this whole phenomenon here, because I'm like, I haven't read the book, but that sounds like something that's worth making a movie out of.
Totally. Yeah, I know that's really what has made America America. It's like the freedom of speech element of these things, and that to be a place where you can do these kind of things. So yeah, very dangerous precedent to be set if that is something that he can do.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, I think this case is so different because this was someone who was basically like they were quoted. Like Williams, I don't know the situation, but they could have not been quoted. You know what I mean? Like they could have not revealed their identity, but they did. They kind of like took credit for this in the book. So it's like, well, that was kind of probably not the way to go about that if that was what you were gonna do.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that case, it's kind of blatant, just like you leaked classified information versus versus being a whistleblower, right? And not being revealed as who you are. I don't know if that makes
Do you know much? Do you know much about Snowden? Like, did you follow that closely?
No, I should, but I haven't. No.
Yeah, I got to look more into that as well. I don't feel qualified to talk too deeply into it, but it seems like a wild situation. He lives in Russia now, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Bro, that's crazy. Like, that's a wild life.
It's so wild too that like he would be. And you know what, man? Like, come on, man. We all should definitely know about that stuff. It kind of just reminds me of like the weapons of mass destruction thing, where it's like, yeah, that happened. Totally lied about that, but whatever. Not a part of like actual American history the way it should be, or maybe it is, but it is. You know what I mean? But it's not being taught. It's not being replicated. These things, like we should have been taught in high school, in university. This is what happened with Edward Snowden.
Why would they do that, Keith?
I mean, I guess not, you know.
Oh, shot.
But I guess that's the role that we have to take up as citizens with freedom of information on the internet.
Yeah, 100%. And centralized options for that so that it can't be as censored. And one thing I'm noticing that's also very scary, dude, is, and this is probably in response to just the sheer influx of content on these platforms, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to find stuff that's even a few years old now on say, something like Twitter.
Oh yeah, dude, I hate that.
That's crazy. And also the rule that they're saying where to try to stop crypto spam, they said they're going to roll out a rule where if you've never tweeted about crypto before, you can't now.
Yeah,
bro,
yeah.
That's absurd, because then if I'm manipulating this whole thing, there's so many less people I have to go like buy to create a narrative.
For sure, fewer people, and I guess they get to charge a premium.
Yeah. I tweeted about it before. We're gonna be rich. It's crazy, man.
They're gonna like make you verify your profile if you start talking about crypto, if you have a certain size of account.
I think that's silly, but hopefully they find a better way to handle that, because I think everyone should be able to participate in a conversation that impacts them.
Yeah, there's some interesting things going on. I guess one thing that I will respect is that they're willing to make changes. Like, I do respect that.
They have
to respect that.
Unless they're like, I also think that part of this bigger plan was to make a lot of these platforms unusable, because then you essentially, you either manufacture the kind of person you want there, or only the kind of person that you want there survives. Right? Like if you're a sound mind person, you come to Twitter and you leave quickly. Right? So that Yeah, that seems like very, very deliberate. Like the people who are creating all there, like they're freaking angry, man. Like it doesn't matter what we post, we did something wrong every time. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. So those are some of the things that are going on in the world. I had some memes that I wanted to share with all of you.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so this was interesting. So this one right here is just a random thing. It's a cold email. He said, "This is the worst cold email I've ever gotten. WTF?" Subject line, "Your family is going to die." Body says, "Of embarrassment if you don't take advantage of this incredible deal. This week only, we're offering 50% off for new users of blank AI. Want to hop on a quick call to see how we can streamline your operations for a B2B SaaS business?"
So that's probably satire, obviously, but people are getting that desperate and trying anything.
The reason I'll take it is okay. It's very well done satire, I guess, is because of the AI piece. Like I thought that was really good, and he's redacting this too, so I think it might be real. You know,
yeah, would love to find out because that's people are very much like, well, do whatever to make money, like that's all that matters, and there's a lot of that, which I think will not age well.
No. Your family's about to die. It's crazy. I don't even know how Google allowed that subject line to get through, bro.
For real.
So this one has been going super viral. I did a short on it. Basically, this lady said some stuff about what was happening with the war and the impact it was going to have on U.S. markets, and the people are absolutely roasting her for it. So let's hear what she had to say.
This deadline that President Trump has set, 8 p.m., has threatened to destroy a civilization. How does an investor process that? Is it a bigger upside risk or downside risk? This deadline.
So I mean, wow, the level of empathy is just incredible.
We lost you on the camera, Keith.
Oh no.
Yeah, the level of empathy is obviously not there, but she, like, to play devil's advocate, I guess, like somewhat literally in the sense when we're talking about war, but it is a market show, no?
Yes, but it's also CNBC, bro. Dude, I don't even know where my battery is. It is a market show, and yeah, she's trying to get, her job is to figure out what's going on in the markets. It's definitely taken a little bit out of context, which makes for great short form.
Oh yeah,
for me.
No, I totally get the fact that is an absurd thing to say. Just trying to provide some context in terms of like, yeah, it's definitely not good.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's more, I guess, just kind of funny than anything, but just this idea that this is also just like the real timeline, like this is actually what's happening in the world. Is someone said that at all?
Oh, it's ridiculous, and it also further illustrates how like a lot of people just purely worship money.
No doubt, man. Because that's the thing too. I mean, someone commented on the video. They're like, "Well, this might say more about us than them." Like we're their audience. These are the questions that are being asked.
Wow, that's I not many people would think about it like that, but that's very true.
Yeah, that was a really cool comment. So, so there was that piece. Next piece we have Asipa sent a pretty cool one. I thought this was really good. Sweet. So apparently, Bitcoin is going to be used in the Strait of Hormuz, right? Iran is accepting Bitcoin. And so this one right here was, this is the ships in the Strait of Hormuz while they wait 45 minutes for the Bitcoin transaction to go through.
That's great.
All my XRP people are loving that one. Because, yeah, I mean, that's, a real possibility. And no one can speed it up, really. That's just how long it might take. Another piece here that I saw, this was, I figured out that this was a year old, but I still thought it was absolutely hilarious. So this is apparently somewhere in Australia, and this happened very random.
A big dog, mate. Beg your pardon, you fuckwit. Go fuck yourself. What do you expect, mate? You're walking a fucking llama. Yeah, you look like one, you fuckwit. Look here.
Australians are the best, man.
Oh was too funny, man. Australia is an amazing place. The accents, the temper, the curses, just next level.
Yeah. Oh, they are super funny.
It's good stuff.
I saw that.
Let me see what this one was. And then this was just interesting. It's kind of more real than anything. It's like human logic is this guy digging up minerals that get used to make chips.
Chips make computer, computer make game where you hit block.
Exactly. So, anyways, more real than anything else.
Facts.
So those are my memes for the day. Only other thing I got is talking some community.
Yeah, let's do it.
So this week we had an episode with Sai Katara. And that was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Huge shout out to him and for Ari for helping put that together.
That, yeah, 100%. And it's still not on Spotify yet because we've still been having issues with it. But as soon as I'm able to get it on Spotify, I will.
Oof. Cross Central couldn't make it live today, but caught up afterwards. Appreciate you fellas. Great stream as always. Thank you, Cross Central, for pulling up. It's Layla Hour said, I don't comment often, but just wanted to say how grateful I am of you two bringing on great guests and sharing knowledge and ideas out into the world. Thank you.
We appreciate you tremendously. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Layla. Lawrence, yes, he said it.
You can't rip it out. So I think it's here to stay. I think it's being used. It's a little Wild West right now for how it's a store value. It basically makes a statement like, okay, once it starts to get in, you can't rip it out. So
what did he say?
I think talking about the fact that crypto is a thing.
Yes, he said rip. Yeah, I don't know exactly.
Not totally sure. But Lawrence, if you're here, let us know the context there.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Shorts Giving Me Life. I have no idea what that one's about either. But anyways, really cool episode. Good time. Appreciate you all for pulling up. What else has happened lately? Anything that you saw lately in the community?
Not really. We're getting the Clips channel a lot more active. I'm putting more and more time into that. So definitely, if you're not following us on the different platforms, it's a great way to support us as well. Because as we've talked about on the show so many times, we're gonna have to pull people into our ecosystem through more approachable means, like the Clips channels. Like so Lawrence clarified. He meant Rip by Ripple. Like the Clips channels, us on Instagram. Keith is crushing it with the short form content over there. And like in an ideal world, we wouldn't even have to do that stuff, but it's the top of funnel for the show, right? So if you guys want to show us some love, that's like another great way that you can support us. Like all the free things, they matter so much. And yeah, that's pretty much it, man. We're very close to on Spotify. Like I think, what are we, like 2 away from it?
I haven't even looked. You might even. Yeah, we must be super close by now. It was 3 away when last time I looked.
So we're at 100.
Wow.
We did it, guys. Okay. All right. Some good music coming at you.
We are at 100 reviews on Spotify. If you haven't, get us past that 100.
Yeah, still do it.
Yeah. We like to obliterate our goals around here.
Yeah.
There is a link in the description. Give one of these a quick little listen, and then Spotify will allow you to leave us a review. And so far, every single review that we've gotten, Ben, I guess, was at 5 stars.
And we appreciate that tremendously. That matters a lot.
Yeah, that's huge.
We're fighting the juggernauts of media with a show that's this long. Like this is the pinnacle of media. And like we can talk. I think I'm cool to talk about this. I didn't sign anything. So I had A16Z as a client for my agency, and I was working with them, and they were like, this is before they've launched all this new media stuff, and they were like freaking out. They're like, this is the whole future. This is like everything. And so if a firm with that much leverage and that much money is like going all in on this stuff, it's because of what's there, right? And so that's the kind of things that we're competing against. So when you guys take the extra few seconds, you're supporting like a small team versus like people who have unlimited money. Like the people we're competing with have unlimited money.
Mm-hmm.
Unlimited. I don't know if you guys watch football at all, but that was a reference from that Russell Wilson. But that's why this stuff matters so much, is because when it is based on user feedback, doing those things gives us an advantage when other people have like unlimited money to throw dollars at guests, throw dollars at getting like content out there. And when I saw A16Z going all in on this shit, I was like, oh, okay, it's going down. And so that's why we're here working so hard on this stuff.
Fantastic, man. Yeah. Support us, guys. We support you supporting us.
Totally. Oh, obviously we're hella biased, but I want to take on the people who won last time because I think we can do it. Like in the last sector of business, right? Like there's always these evolutions of things that people saw earlier, and I think that our community will be a big part of that. And we're also we're really thinking about like we want to foster a community of like go-getters. And so what I mean by that is that we don't want what we call in the background, we're calling like they people, where they're always blaming everything else. Of course, we can look at what's there and objectively say like this is a problem, but I'm obsessed with people who want to solve the problems rather than point at it and talk about the problem all day. Okay, I'd rather get closer to a solution. And I know that a lot of you guys that are watching this, you're going to go on to build amazing things. And we want to do everything we can to give you the resources to help you and do that. And we've been working on some cool stuff in the background that will make all of that hopefully easier. And we can help you along that journey as well. Did I miss anything, Keith?
No, man. That's right on.
Cool.
Right on.
Sweet. Because like a lot of times, I don't think that like the public didn't understand is that people don't want to pay for anything, but our dollars are our votes in a lot of way, right? Like because your time is your energy, and energy from the time that you spent gives you the resource that you have in terms of money. So your attention and your money, where you put it, matters a lot. And so if you don't align with people, and if that's not us, then don't give us your time and attention. But if it is, it does matter. That's basically what I'm trying to say.
Love it, man.
Cool.
Yep.
So context for tomorrow's episode, guys. We appreciate you chilling with us.
Yeah.
Always highlight of my week. So I appreciate you, first of all, for your time. It means a lot to me, and not something I take for granted whatsoever. So we're always working to try to make it better. We talk about the show all the time, like how can we make this better? And we're working on a lot of cool things in the background. So we'll keep doing it. And then we have an awesome extra episode coming at you tomorrow at 1 p.m. So that'll be all about AI. It's one of the biggest names in AI. And you definitely want to be there live because there's probably no other way where you'd be able to have the chance of asking this person one-on-one questions.
1 p.m. Eastern on a Friday. Can you believe that? What a treat for me. It's a treat for me, I'll tell you that. I'm super excited for this conversation.
Totally. 100%. Keith for president. If he runs,
right,
yeah. Well, I can't even vote, so I'm not part of that. But yeah, appreciate all you tuning in. Yeah, and thank you, RD, obviously always holding it down in the chat. We appreciate you tremendously. And then also to show love for our producer in the background, Asipa. Appreciate you tremendously, and we appreciate all of you guys chilling with us. So if you've yet to do so, turn on notifications, turn them all on, so that way you get notified when we go live tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern to talk AI and the future of what it means for all of us. I'm hopeful that we can leave you guys with some optimism for the future that we're headed into, and maybe be a jump off point where you start to use the tools to change your life, because they can.
Let's go.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Anything else that you want, Keith?
Make today the best day of your life, folks.
That's it. All right. I'm going to try to do the outro thing today. Let's see if it goes. Come on. Woo! We worked. All right. See you guys.